Cheap Caribbean is celebrating more than just the new year in 2025. Cheap Caribbean Vacations is celebrating its 25th birthday, too. You're invited to join in on the birthday fun and book a beach vacation with more savings. Now through February 3rd, you can unlock up to $250 off site-wide vacation packages. Celebrate these awesome savings at your favorite beach and book your next all-inclusive vacay at cheapcaribbean.com. Your $250 off is waiting.
Today, we'll talk to Emily and Katie about their Universal and Disney World trip. That's coming up on this episode 445 of WDW Prep to Go. Hello and welcome to WDW Prep to Go, where we talk strategy and ideas for people planning their Disney World trips. I am your host, Shannon Albert from WDWPrepSchool.com. Thank you for being here for episode 445. Today is another trip report. We're back on the trip reports after having a few that were more like standalone episodes or topical episodes. And today is an interesting one because it is not only a Universal and Disney World combo trip, but it is very specific to people traveling with a wheelchair. And so if you want details about how it works at Universal and Disney World, there's going to be a lot of information here. If you want to be a guest like Katie and Emily, the only way to do that is using the SpeakPipe information in the show notes of every episode. Leave a message there. If it works out with our schedule, we'll reach out to you to get your interviews booked. I did want to mention a fun fact that a lot of podcast guests are scared to be guests because they worry that they're not going to sound as eloquent as previous guests, especially in terms of using filler words, as they speak, because it is, 2 or 3 hours of speaking. And I just want to tell you a little secret. I use an editing tool that removes all the filler words. My goal is to not make anyone look silly, and so I do remove filler words, and it's for me as well. It's not just for the guests. And it also enhances the audio quality of the guest audio because it is not reasonable for me to expect guests to have professional microphones, although some do, most don't. And so I've got the editing tools in place to do that. So if that has kept you from submitting for a future trip report, don't worry. I've got that handled, and we'll work around it. So feel free to leave a SpeakPipe if you have an upcoming trip, and we'll see if it works out with our schedule. I think that is it. If you would like to learn more about traveling with the wheelchair in particular, this will be a good one for you. Here are my chats with Emily and Katie. Welcome to the podcast, Emily and Katie.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We are talking on Friday, December 27th for our pre-trip. I assume you're heading to Disney World soon.
Yeah, we're going to be there at the beginning of January. So we're kind of pushing all of that holiday time off to the beginning of January.
What are your dates, January?
We're going to be leaving on January 2nd and then coming back on January 8th. And we're going to Disney and Universal Studios.
Disney and Universal. Okay. I'm going to assume it's not your first time either?
It's neither of our first time, but it's our first time together. And I would say it's our first time going as adults only.
Yes. First time.
Okay. And what is your connection, the two of you?
Friends, travel partners, partners in crime. Emily gets me to do crazy stuff all the time.
Yeah. I come up with an idea and then Katie says, okay. And that's why we're really good friends.
Okay. So is it just the two of you going, or are there others?
No. So we're going to travel together from Michigan, but we're going to be meeting up with my sister and sister-in-law, Becky. I'll just call my sisters. But yeah, my sister Adrienne and then my sister Becky. And we're going for my 40th birthday.
Okay. I'm sorry, sister and sister-in-law.
Yes.
And it's your 40th birthday.
Yep.
Okay. And are they joining, your sister and sister-in-law, are they joining for the exact same dates, or is it a slightly different schedule for them?
It's slightly different. We're all coming in on January 2nd. Katie and I get in. Do you want me to just go through the itinerary? Would that be helpful?
We are going to get to that next.
Okay.
So if I know it's going to be different, I'll know to note that.
Okay. Yeah. So there's going to be separate dates. So there'll be January 2nd through the 8th for Katie and I, and then January 2nd through the 5th for Becky and Adrienne. And they are coming out of New York City.
Okay. That's where I just was. All right. Okay. So let's start with January 2nd, Thursday. where you guys are coming in from Michigan. Are you flying in?
Yep.
Yep.
Do you want to go through it?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so we're
You know it
going.
much better than I do.
We're gonna leave the house around 12. Her husband is going to drive us. Katie uses a wheelchair, so it's a lot easier just to have him take us in the accessible vehicle because she can just wheel in and then we can get out. Our flight is at 2:10 and arrives in Orlando around 5 o'clock. So we're gonna then transfer. Just the one thing that we have to figure out is when we get on the plane, making sure that the wheelchair follows us. So we'll need to make sure that they have it and put it in the right place and that it's there when Katie gets out and just all of those like logistical things around the wheelchair. And we're sitting together. And then we're going to take a lift. So if you put in lift in the settings, you just say that I have a wheelchair, then they'll note it when they come and pick you up. So we're going to take a lift to Aventura. And I think we're getting in a little bit earlier. So we haven't really talked about what we're going to do. But I was thinking that we'll just kind of check out the hotel and maybe go up to the rooftop bar because we've heard it's good. It's called Bar Bistro 17. And then around 8:30, my sisters arrive at the airport. So I bet they'll be to Aventura around 10. And I don't know if they'll be up for anything, but if they are, then we can grab a drink together.
Okay. So Aventura is at Universal.
It's at Universal. Yeah, we're starting 2 days at Universal. We have a day off. We're doing 2 days at Disney.
Okay. So we are going, sometimes people will stay in, Disney World and then just commute over to Universal, but you are doing it in 2 segments.
We considered a lot of the combinations. So we talked about Airbnbs, and then we talked about, should we stay at one property or another? And we decided that we want convenience the whole time. We want us to be able to just walk into the park or take the transport that's already there. So taking the Skyliner. Everything came down to convenience and not having a bunch of extra
logistics.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So on this first day, Thursday, January 2nd, you're flying in, you're taking Lyft to Aventura, and then doing some rooftop stuff maybe that evening. Your sisters arrive that evening as well.
Yep.
Anything else on January 2nd?
Nope.
Okay. Let's go to January 3rd on Friday, January 3rd.
So I think we're going to wake up early.
I've been sleeping in over Christmas break. Emily is not. She still wakes up at 5 a.m. and is ready to go.
Ready to go. So we're going to wake up early, though, and we're going to walk over to the Royal Pacific. I booked that with points for one night so that we could get express passes on the Friday and the Saturday. And even though we're not staying overnight, the 4 of us will be able to get the express passes.
So that begs the question, why not just stay there then?
It's really expensive.
Uh-huh.
It's just super expensive. And with points, I was able to get that one night down to, I think, like 150. But if I had bought it, it would have been something like, I don't know, 1,500 for 3 nights.
That's a lot of money. So in walking over there, are you just trying to like check in, get your tickets kind of thing?
Yeah. So I just did this actually in October because my littler family and I went to Universal, and it's super easy. You go to the front desk, you check in, you'd say how many people, they issue your express passes, they give you the key to the room, and then you can head right into the park. So we're going to do something like that. And with the express passes at Universal for that one, it's unlimited. So we can go to as many rides as many times as we want. It's awesome.
Yeah. That is nice. Okay. So which park are you going to this day?
We are probably going to do both. I assume that we'll just do both and try to ride as many rides as we can. And then the second day will be like, what were the top hits? What do we want to do again? With the Express Pass, we should be able to do anything. And then, what we don't know is how necessary an Express Pass is for someone using a wheelchair. We don't know if we're going to get into the line and then they'll say, oh, you actually have to take the regular line and then the elevator. We just don't know how all of that's going to go. And it's very difficult to find that information online.
And especially with new rules, right? Like before I would say in a lot of circumstances, it wasn't worth it because you end up skipping so much of the lines. But I just don't have a sense of that now with new rules.
Yeah. And when I was there, I was asking, is this wheelchair accessible? What are they going to do? And they're like, oh yeah, totally accessible, but they don't give you details. Like, oh, how about this lift? Is this lift going to take you up to the top, like here, or is it going to take you later? Does it matter if you're an express or not? We don't know. So what I wanted to do is just remove any barrier. And that was through our hotels and through just getting expresses, and we'll get lightning lanes as well. And if we don't need them, fine. But I'd rather not have to worry about it, and for us just to be able to get up to the front. But we're going to note all of that in our notes, because I do think that it's very difficult to find it for all the parks.
Yes. Need specifics on how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So what are your top priorities then in the parks?
You want me to tell?
Yeah.
I want to go on the roller coasters. So Velocicoaster. I want to go on Hagrid's, Rip Ride Rocket. I love E.T. I want to go to the Harry Potter areas. In the fall, I knew I was going to do 2 trips, so I got an annual pass. So this is the beginning of using the annual pass. But I just love those parks. They're super fun and really relaxed. And having an express pass, what it actually does, it allows us to make decisions in the moment. So I think we're going to do a lot of that too. And if we're not having to figure out when the kids eat and if they're having a meltdown, like we can do more or do less. We can just decide in the moment. So those 2 days are really going to be about flexibility.
Okay. And what about dining?
I booked antojitos for 7:15. And so we might leave the park and then do that, or we might just stay. I don't know. There's a lot of nice places there. So I like the Minions Cafe. I like all of the Harry Potter food. There's a really good burger in, what's it called? In the water zone near the barges in Islands of Adventure. I forget what it's called, but there's a good burger with curly fries. I just bet we're just going to say, what do you feel like eating? And then we'll eat it.
Then you sent me that vegan pasty idea, which looked really tasty.
Yeah. So there's definitely some people who focus on Disney and Universal foods. And, there's a few things that we'd like to try. So there's a vegan pasty in Hogsmeade. And then there's butterbeer soft serve in Diagon Alley.
So are you all vegan or just one person?
Oh, no, none of us are.
We're just, really, it's all about adventure, really, for us. We're just trying to find fun and new, exciting things that we haven't tried before. That we probably do when we had kids and a family and more people to think about.
Yeah, so we might drink too. We might have a couple of drinks.
We probably will drink too.
I live with a vegan, so I know how difficult it can be to find things sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So is that it for Friday, January 3rd? All right.
Yeah. What I don't know is if we're going to, I could see a world where we're like, oh, let's just do an overnight pack to Royal Pacific, for that one night and then go in. I could see us doing that. Mm-hmm. But I could also see us skipping that entirely and just going back to the hotel and spending the night.
Okay. So Saturday, January 4th.
Saturday, it's going to be really similar to the day before. We're going to just go to the parks and try everything out again. I'd like to go both ways on the Hogwarts Express because I haven't. I've only gone from...
And I never have.
Right. Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Because we only did one park. For one day and then one park for another day.
And that's a route where Katie can actually roll on with her wheelchair. There's a few places where Katie can stay in the wheelchair, and then a lot of the other ones are got to transfer. Mm-hmm. So that would be cool then. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and then I have 2 reservations booked in the evening because I'm trying to keep things flexible, but 7:15 antojitos just in case we don't do it the day before and we want to, and 7:45 to some Emporium just in case we want to do that. But if we don't, I'll cancel them.
Okay.
But that's our last night together. So one thing I do want to do is that's when I'd like to go up to the rooftop and have a drink together.
All right. At your hotel?
Yeah.
Okay. Sunday, January 5th?
On Sunday, Becky and Adrian have a flight at 10:55. I bet they'll leave around 8:30 or so. And I bet they'll take a lift as well. Katie and I will wake up really early. And she got a ticket there. It was 2 for 2. So you have 2 days going and then 2 days extra. So we could go back into the park if we feel like it, but we won't have express passes. Mm-hmm. So we might do that, or we might just kind of relax and hang out. And then at one point, we're going to pack up our room and transfer to Pop Century. And that will be through another lift. And once we get to Pop Century, we'll try to check in early or on time, depending on the time of day. And then our plan is to take the bus to Magic Kingdom and do a monorail crawl. I've never been in any of those resorts, so I'm super looking forward to it. Have you?
The one that's over near Animal Kingdom, I can't remember the name of it.
The Polynesian?
Yeah, the Polynesian. We went in there, but that was it.
So we're going to do that. And the places I want to go are Steakhouse 71 at the Contemporary, either Trader Sam's or Tamu Lounge at the Poly, the Grand Floridian, doing Enchanted Rose. If that's full, then Narcoossee's or Citrico's. And then we might try and see the fireworks with Katie. So when we were there in the fall, people with wheelchairs were really pushed about. If you're in a wheelchair, you're getting pushed around. So watching the fireworks is kind of scary, and people are standing in front of you. It's just not the best place. So we might try and stick around and watch it from a location that Katie wouldn't just be jostled the whole time.
That is the challenging thing for parades and fireworks and things like that, is people stand up immediately and then you think you have a great spot, and then all of a sudden you're like,
I saw a bus.
I see nothing, right? Like I can see the human in front of me, not whatever's happening in front of that. And so learning to be pushy and be like, excuse me, so they can get, because they can see above me.
They're way above you.
Right.
Yeah, that doesn't quite seem fair.
And then I can't see above them.
Right. So I don't know where on that area. I think it depends on where we end up. And I don't think we need the full view of the fireworks. It's not even something that I'm that interested in, but it'd be kind of cool to see it and not have to push crowds around.
I think the Contemporary would be your best bet.
Okay.
The fourth floor observation deck.
Okay.
Because if you go to the Polynesian, you're going to be in the sand.
Yeah.
Grand Floridian is kind of similar, but Contemporary has that benefit of height.
From above, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to put that. So maybe that'll be our last stop. So we'll kind of start the opposite way and then come back around.
Yeah. Okay. Are you ready to move on to the next day?
Yes.
What
So
is
next
January
day,
6th?
we are going to go to Disney. And the plan right now is to get lightning lanes for the whole 2 days. And we have park hoppers. So we're going to start at Animal Kingdom. And the three that would be fun to do are Navi River, the Safari, and Everest. And I'm pretty sure all three of those are accessible. And I've sent her videos of the Yak and Yeti Kids Breakfast and Satuli Canteen and Nomad Lounge. And so those are like restaurants that we've talked about that would be kind of cool to grab something.
And I've looked at like YouTube videos and things for each of the rides, like for watching folks, like because I can transfer. But I've always got, whenever I've gone to theme parks of any kind, I usually go with my husband, who can do some helping of lifting and transferring. And so making sure that like it has, either the step where I can just transfer myself. Down and up is hardest, right? Like I get way down into a ride and then getting back up into my chair, that kind of thing. So doing that research, I watching the YouTube videos, I'm like, oh, it's really helpful if like we take videos of me doing it, right? Just because that's what there's a void there for folks to be able to actually be able to see it and just to understand exactly what you would be able to do or not do in that context.
That is super helpful. I think of people like you often on rides like Pirates of the Caribbean.
Right.
You're down in that boat and it's so hard to get back up to the platform.
Yep.
So they say on some of them that there's a wheelchair accessible thing. So I keep wondering if we go to, let's say, Space Mountain or Pirates, if there's actually a boat that's a little bit higher that we could get into. But again, you just can't find that anywhere online. And I have tried and you have tried, and they say it's accessible, but access means different things to different people. And not making it really clear creates a lot of uncertainty.
And I think your ability to transfer or not changes things. So yeah, you're right.
And it's like, I think,
and then also trying it out, like when you're in front of a crowd is not always
right.
Right. You have a line of people who've also been waiting for an hour and they're like,
I
right?
get that.
Understandably.
Yes. You're like, I just want to be like everybody else. Let's get going. But you don't always know how that's going to work.
Exactly.
Okay. So you said you're starting Animal Kingdom and you're going to get lightning lanes, but because your lightning lane day hasn't arrived yet, you don't know exactly what that schedule is.
Right. We're going to book that on the 29th.
Okay.
Because we're starting with Universal, even though it's a week out from the vacation, we can't do that until December 29th. So I will do that then. And I've already connected our accounts. Well, I created an account for Katie.
I've been an event planner my entire life, and I'm kind of on hiatus and I'm doing something else. And so Emily's like way into planning, and I'm like plan away, knock yourself out because
She's outsourcing it.
Yeah, she's outsourcing it. So
Mhm.
we're going to go to Magic Kingdom. So we're going to go from Animal Kingdom to Magic Kingdom. And we chose that. Well, hold on. I chose that because I wanted us to have a day that's just the Skyliner, that we can kind of go to Epcot and Hollywood Studios and go back to Hollywood Studios. Like we can do all of that in one day. And Katie's also mentioned that Magic Kingdom is not a huge priority for her. And actually, when we went in the fall, I wasn't that big of a fan of Magic Kingdom either. There's a lot of slow rides, and I want like action.
Mm-hmm. The roller coaster
All
thing.
kind of is going to work out. And when we go there, I'd really like to do Tiana's. We'll have to see about Pirates, but if that's a difficult transfer, like this all becomes super weird, right? I might book all of these rides and then we'll get to the ride and not be able to do it. And I don't care. I think it's going to be annoying, but I hate to lose one of our lightning lanes and then, not be able to find other things that are available. That's kind of the funky part. When we were there in the fall, it was so busy. We arrived to Magic Kingdom and every single lightning lane was gone. So we had the 3 and I was just like trying to gobble them up as I found them, but it was incredibly busy. And I don't know what it's going to be like at the beginning of January, but I hope it's not as bad, that if we get to a ride and we can't get on, that we could book it for a different one that is accessible.
And I've done, but that's also tricky because I've done Pirates, but again, I had my husband there, right? So I don't remember what I had him do or what I didn't have him. Do you know what I mean? I just don't remember enough. And also that was, I don't know, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. I'm not sure. I don't remember how long ago it was, but it was a while ago. And so my mobility has changed as well. And so just, I think I can do Pirates.
I'm going to keep my fingers crossed you'll be able to do anything you want.
Right. That would be great. When I looked it up on what's accessible at Disney, there was only really one ride, maybe one or two, but one ride that's not a water park, and it was Peter Pan. Peter Pan is not accessible. But everything else says it's accessible or that you can roll your wheelchair on. So we'll see.
Okay. I hope that is true.
And I found that like when we went to Disney and when we went to Universal, I was actually really impressed with some of the modifications that they've done, right? Like they really have gone above and beyond compared to like other amusement parks that I've been to with allowing wheelchairs to just get on and that sort of thing. It really is impressive what they've done. But again, it's sort of an experiment.
Yeah. And, there's things that I found out by searching Reddit threads for Hagrid's ride. They can stop the track, right? Or slow it down a ton so that they'll have time for a transfer. That's not online anywhere. So I assume the same for, what's it called? Little Mermaid, those tracks that are kind of moving along. I think it's the same, that they can either slow it down or stop it entirely.
Yeah, they slowed down a lot on Little Mermaid.
Really?
That one was easy, and it was.
That's actually what I tell myself every time the Haunted Mansion stops. I tell myself they're doing an accessible load sort of thing because it's a continuous, ride. So you have to stop it to allow people to, get on.
Yeah.
So that would make sense. I hope that all works out. So you're getting lightning lanes and you're park hopping. Are you pre-booking your lightning lanes at Animal Kingdom and then hoping to snag them for Magic Kingdom?
Yeah, I think we're just going to book those 3 at Animal Kingdom and try to do, I don't know, other rides. And then that'll be a really quick park. We'll kind of loop it. And while we're using the lightning lanes, I'll be booking them for Animal Kingdom. So I'm hoping to get Tiana's, Pirates, Haunted Mansion, and then Jungle Cruise, because you can roll on. I'm nervous about Space Mountain because I rode it recently and it's so hard to get in and out of as an able-bodied person. And then Winnie the Pooh, A Small World, and just anything else that we can get. And I'm going to also book the single rider for Seven Dwarves and Tron. So I'm doing all that stuff.
All right. Any dining plans?
We didn't book any reservations, but I would like Katie to try the creme brulee croissant because it was so good. I didn't try the spring rolls, and I'd like to try that. And Aloha Isle has some really lovely desserts, so I'd like to try that as well. Do you have any?
I don't.
All right. And then Tuesday, January 7th?
Tuesday, we are going to go to Disney, and we're starting at Hollywood Studios. I think it would be fun to do early entry at Hollywood Studios, maybe just to get the Runaway Railway, since it's right there, we can just head in. So I would like to book The Slinky Dog, Tower of Terror, and Toy Story Mania, and then Aerosmith, Smuggler's Run, and I will book Rise of the Resistance as well. When we went in the fall, we were able to do every single ride and like multiple shows. And so that was a brilliant day. I would like to have another brilliant day. My goal.
Since you're hopping, do you think you'll be able to do it in a half day?
Yes.
You do. Okay.
Well, that is a good question. I don't know, because we're going to hop to Epcot and then I want to hop back to Hollywood Studios. I know. Sorry, Katie.
That's all right. I'm up for it.
So the food things would be nice to try. Ronto Roasters, Baseline Tap House, and I have a reservation for 9:15 at Oga's. So that's why we're going to leave and then come back. And then at one point we'll leave and go to Epcot. And so I'll be moving those lightning lanes over to Epcot and try to grab, I'm kind of doubting my own plans at this point, but Frozen or Remy's or anything else. I do want to book Guardians of the Galaxy because it's a super fun ride. And we wanted to go to La Cava. And I think you've said that you like the macaron ice cream looked good. Just to go all of those places. And then we'll go back to Oga's. That does sound like a lot, doesn't it? We're going to start early. We're going to end. This is a 12-hour day.
It's a big day.
We are going for it.
It's towards the end of the trip, right?
Yeah, this is the last full day.
So, of course, why not go hard?
All right. So, yeah, that will be a busy day. I will be very curious how much you get done. And then Wednesday, January 8th is your departure, I assume?
It's our departure day. So we will check out of Pop. And we've talked about going to Disney Springs or the boardwalk or riding the Skyliner and going places. So we'll probably just play it by ear, but we do need to be on the road by about 12. So we don't have that much time. We might, but I bet we'll take our bags with us. So wherever we are, we can leave from. And then we have a flight at 2:02. We arrive back in Detroit around 5. And then her husband's going to come and snag us and bring us home.
All right. Sounds fun.
It's going to be really fun.
Have you ever traveled this time of year?
Yes. I traveled but I drove to Tampa. But but I did not fly. So it might be kind of wild.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we're huge fans of the weather this time of year.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's so mild. Because I'm sure it was hot when you were there.
It was super hot. And then I've been to Disney at the end of February and it was lovely weather, really cool. So I'm hoping that it's cold. I don't want to be hot.
I would love it if it got into the 70s.
Yeah.
I believe it'll be thrilled if it's in the 60s.
Yeah, that would be nice. I mean, but 70s is so nice for Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're still getting all that sun and it can be kind of muggy, right?
Yeah. It's gorgeous. I like it when it's 70s in the middle of the day and then the morning and evening's a little bit cooler, obviously, so they throw on a hoodie. Perfect. But you never know. So we'll see how it goes. All right. Is there anything about your trip we need to talk about before we wrap it up?
I think that one thing that I would like to do is, and I don't know how we're going to do it, but I would like to keep track, because when you're in the moment, you're like, oh, that was interesting about accessibility, but you don't necessarily remember everything. So I created a spreadsheet and I want to have the rides and then ask like a few questions. So is this ride truly accessible? Does the ride use an elevator? Is the Lightning Lane or Express Pass worth it to have for those? Can Katie bring her chair on the ride? Is the ride an easy transfer or is it super low or like super high so you can't kind of get into it? Do they have an extra assist? Because sometimes there's like machines that will kind of lift you over. And then what's the general feeling of the staff and guests? Is this an inconvenience? Are people annoyed? Or is there like a lot of flexibility and patience? Right? Those are the things that we were like the most interested.
Like trying to like at least those like 4 questions to ask ourselves like each time so that we can kind of have a sense for it. I think that would be valuable information for folks who are trying to plan something like this.
If you are able to update that spreadsheet, I'll be happy to link to it for people as a resource.
Yeah, I really feel like people should be able to go on a vacation and know what they're getting into. But there is a lot of unknown. We don't even know how we're going to get from Ventura to the parks. Because whenever I've heard of people kind of going that way, there's a lot of stairs involved. Okay. What's the accessible route? Is it going to be way out of the way, or is there going to be an elevator by the stairs? We just don't know. And it makes it hard for people to consider going on adventures and trips because they don't know. And when she has Daniel, it's a lot easier because then the unknown is not a big deal, but the unknown will become a bigger deal when we know we can't like heave ho it like her husband.
Right.
You know, you have to be able, folks need to be able to look at something and know whether they're going to be able to access it. And I don't think that's the case right now at all.
Yeah. It's too bad the parks themselves don't make it very, very obvious.
Yeah, if you're listening, Disney, you can have access to our spreadsheet too.
They should create their own so that we don't have to do research trips like this.
Right.
So, all right.
But we're up for it, the adventure and kind of the unknown of it. And Katie and I like to travel together.
Okay. Well, it all sounds good. I hope you get the lightning lanes you wanted and have a great time. And I'll talk to you in January.
Good.
Right, thanks.
Bye.
Welcome back from your trip.
Thank you. Excited to be here. I know it's been a little while. I'm sorry.
It has. It's Sunday, January 19th. So it's been about 3 weeks since we talked and about 11 days, I think, since you've been back. Katie will be joining us in a little bit. But how did your trip go overall?
It was awesome. It was totally epic. And I think that going on trips with just your friends, adult friends, is so fun. And I can't wait to do it again.
Good. Let's start talking through it, starting with Thursday, January 2nd, where you were flying to Orlando.
I was wondering if I could go back just a wee bit because a couple of things happened that I was like, this is really interesting that I did not know about. But when I booked the lightning lane passes on the 29th, I woke up at the right time. I did all the things. Everything I wanted was there. I got through the first day. It was fine. And then on the second day, which was Hollywood Studios, I forgot to add Katie. It's this really like cheeky little button you have to click. And so I'm, going through the day, both of the days that I booked and being like, oh no, I missed Katie. And it was only about 15 minutes later, but by the time I realized that, a lot of the lightning lanes were gone. And so I ended up finding, for 2 of the rides, I was able to get Katie and I really close together, like within 15 minutes. But on the third one, I couldn't. And I was trying to figure out what to do. So I called Disney and asked them if they could do anything. They could not. They said that they would have to cancel the whole day. And I knew how fast those lightning lanes were going, so I didn't want to do that. So I kind of just accepted that it'd be the way it was. But I ended up booking, what was it? The Muppets for 9:05 because I thought if I get something early, I can start using it for the next park. And it automatically kind of connected the 2 of us. And so I was able to move us together after that. And I didn't know that was a thing. So I thought it was really helpful that I could kind of cancel, get us even on the same time at a different ride, and we would be connected again. So anyway, I wanted to just pass that knowledge along because
that's good to know. The top question we get that's related to that is people that are arriving on different dates, like someone's arriving a day before, and how do I book us together? And that would be helpful in their case as well.
Yeah, just changing the ride helped.
Yeah.
So then the day before we're supposed to leave, I get a message from Adrian and Becky, and they're like, where are we staying? So it turns out that I just planned the entire trip and no one knew where we were staying. So that was hilarious. And I was coming back from up north and I left my passport and my wallet in my parents' house 3 hours north. And it was not my passport, my identification, so my driver's license and my wallet. And it just so happened I had one other credit card just like laying around and my passport. But there was a hot minute where I didn't have what I needed to go on this trip. And so my other piece of advice is just make sure you have another form of identification just in case in your home, because that is the thing that saved me. Otherwise, I was driving another 6 hours up there and then back again.
Yeah, that would be a bummer.
Anyway, so the second, I realized on the second that Katie has a 4-day pass and we were only planning to use 3 of them. But because we're getting in so early and the parks were staying so late, I called Universal and changed her start date to the 2nd. And it was only $4 more. I thought that was pretty great that they got the flexibility to kind of change it around and that it wasn't going to be a ton extra. So we ended up being able to use the 4 days instead of just the 3. Which is
Okay.
great because if it's a promo pass, you may as well do it.
Mhm.
So at 11:30, Katie's dad picked us up and drove us to the airport. We're only like 25 minutes away, so that was super easy. We got there with plenty of time to hang out. There are a few things I didn't realize as someone who doesn't use a wheelchair. So I didn't realize that there'd be so many people that would come up to Katie to ask her about her disability. It blew my mind. So many people kept coming up and asking, can you walk? Can you transfer? Do you need another chair? And
are you talking about specifically employees at the airport or?
So
Okay.
gate agents.
Yeah.
Gate agents, and then people will help with the transfer. There were other people that were going to be using that transfer chair, but Katie, they wanted to put Katie on first because her transfer is just a little bit longer and different. So they wanted her to go on first, and she was going to the restroom, but they hadn't communicated that they needed her to be available at this time. So they were starting to get kind of annoyed with her, and I refused to contact her. I was like, no, you're not going to communicate when this person needs to be here. I am not going to interrupt her bathroom break. That is not okay. But she got there. They got her on the plane. The people who helped at this airport were lovely. At first, they were trying to wheel her down the ramp, and she's, don't touch my wheelchair. Because I guess they're used to when they do a transfer that people aren't necessarily used to their chair. So they were like trying to push her. And the transfer person was like, don't touch her. She doesn't need help. She uses this wheelchair full time. She is fine going down the ramp herself. And that kind of advocacy made a big difference. And it made her feel comfy too. And so she gets down the ramp, you transfer to the transfer chair, and then get onto the plane. This was all like really standard, really easy. The people were great. The plane was super full. There were no spare spots. There were like loads of people on the wait list. And I guess this is when my spidey sense should have said, oh, this is going to be a busy weekend. Because I'm thinking, oh, this is great. Everybody traveled in December. We're going to have an awesome time in January. Lies. It was very busy. And we ended up sitting next to this guy who was an older gentleman. And he was on his phone and he had the big text so I could see. Anyway, the person on his phone said, did you get on? He's, yeah, I'm in an aisle seat. She's sitting next to no fat guys. And he's like, no, but children and husky women. And I was like, oh, he called us husky women. That is so rude.
So that's a rude way to start the trip, but moving along.
So we get off of the flight. And one thing with Katie is that she's the first one to get on and the last one to get on. So everyone kind of files out and they're starting to clean and then they get us off. And these folks weren't as personable as the ones in Detroit, but they were fine.
Yeah, I mean both flights were fine. They were great. It was not a problem either time. It's great.
Yeah.
So
I'm used to this.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that like that sums up the whole trip. Honestly, is that I think that Emily and her sisters both they're watching their opinions and their perceptions of the experiences of being with somebody who's disabled was interesting for me to observe. Because I would be like, this is just like life, right? And so it started to get me to observe some things that maybe I wouldn't observe sometimes because just that's like going through life. And so Emily's, are you annoyed? And I'd be like, it's not annoying. It's just different, right? Because I'd start to observe things that I maybe wouldn't always observe otherwise. Because I was more hyper attuned to it in a lot of ways throughout the entire trip.
Yeah.
Well, and also you didn't have Daniel, right?
Right, yeah, and that also because he tends to be a lot of my ability, right? I lean on him for a lot of ability in a lot of ways, so that I'm more attuned to it as well.
So you are in Orlando at the airport, right?
We're in Orlando at the airport, and I think everything is pretty normal. We get all the way through. We get to the lift. I order it, and one thing that was kind of weird is even though I said I was using a wheelchair, they kept trying to put us in really big SUVs, which we can't transfer. It would fit the wheelchair, but we couldn't transfer to. So
it'd be a big lift.
Yes,
for me. So transferring is more challenging.
Yeah. So I canceled about 3 times until we finally got like a small car. And that was fine. We got in, we checked in, we unpacked super quickly at Aventura, and then we took the bus to City Walk. The bus almost immediately picked us up, but the bus drops us off at kind of the far end of the park. So we had a bit of a walk to get where we're going to go. And we decided to go to Islands of Adventure and get a vegan pasty.
And also, and the bus was super accessible, easy peasy. They were ready for it and everything like that. That was all great. But yeah, the pasty was delicious.
I would say all of the park transportation was super accessible. They had systems in place. Everyone knew what they were doing, and most of them were really kind.
Yep.
But
Were the Universal buses similar to the Disney World buses?
Yes. I wouldn't say it's much of a difference.
Other than it felt like at Disney, they were locking me in. At Universal, they were like, do you want the lap belt? At Disney, there was no option. It was like, here's your seatbelt. They were like, Disney was like not taking any chances.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we went to go to get the vegan pasty. We liked it.
It was chilly. I mean, it was chilly in Florida the entire week we were there. Well, chillier. It was chilly for you guys and warm for us. My husband kept telling me to not complain. It was 20 in Michigan that week we were there, so like it was fine. But it was a nice thing to have on a cooler night.
It went down to the 30s when we were there.
That's really cool. People do not understand how cold that is when you're in a high humidity place.
Yeah, it was freezing. So then I don't know, we were just kind of wandering around. So we knew we had about 2 hours, and we're just kind of checking out the place. It was really dark. I'm surprised at how dark those parks are at night, but there's not a lot of like ambient lighting or floor lighting. So we were doing a lot of kind of checking our feet as we were going in the beginning. And at this night, they had the Hogwarts fireworks, and we were actually brought to an accessible area by somebody. And so we had a pretty great view of not the fireworks, of the light show that was happening.
Which has fireworks.
Oh yeah, it does have fireworks at the end. So in the light show is like, how would you explain it?
It's like a story that I couldn't hear.
Like like a beginning to end Harry Potter that we couldn't hear, but we knew it was important to Hogwarts. And then there were some fireworks at the end.
But it's cute.
It was cute. And so we kind of went around the other way because Islands is a big circle. So we went in through the right, and then we kind of left by kind of going counterclockwise. And when we were on our way out, we realized that the river adventure it only had a 5-minute wait. And we were like,
probably because it was a wet ride and it was cold.
And it's cold. Yes.
Maybe.
Even Tiana's has been less busy because of the weather.
That might have been it. That should have been our clue.
But it was so fun. I don't know. So we went out there, and this is our first time being like, what's your accessibility? And there's a giant line. It always makes me laugh when you go through a massive line and there's nobody there. Like they were expecting this to be really, really busy, like a great ride, and no one goes. So you're just basically spending all your time going through empty lines. And on this one, they had a super cool seat that kind of lifts out of the boat, so that she just transfers from chair to the seat, and then it just goes back down again. Mm-hmm. It's awesome.
Yeah. And it was one cart that did that. Right. And so like we had one spot where we could sit, and that was my first question, was like, how wet are we going to get if we sit there? And they were like, not very wet. And I was like, okay, then we'll do it. I do not like to be cold.
Don't lie to yourself. We were going to do it, whether it was going to be wet or not.
Well, I mean, I might not have gotten that.
But it was really cute. I love that ride.
It is very cute. It was a cute ride.
It feels 90s to me, and just feels a bit dated but funny. And all of the animatronic dinosaurs are they're kind of jerking out in a weird way. It's funny.
It is. It's a cute ride.
Mm-hmm. So then we got off, and it's nice because when you get off, you're at a different location too. So you have some time to kind of get yourself out. There's not a lot of rush. Sometimes when you're getting out in front of people who are about to get on, there's a lot of pressure because they are like, why aren't you moving? And they've been waiting for so long that they want things to move. But this actually lets you get off at a different location, which is great.
Yeah. The thing about that night was that like it didn't make sense to wait for any rides because we knew we had the fast passes the next day. So if it was a wait, like why would we wait? We're just kind of checking things out. And so it made sense to do that one and then just go back to the hotel.
Mm-hmm. So we did go back to the hotel. We went through the City Walk again. We got the bus back, and the place we were hoping to go, Bistro 17, wasn't open. It was closed for a private event.
We kept trying to go.
I was so pumped about this. Yeah. So it turns out that you can push the button to the elevator, but it won't take you there. And so we kept getting on and off different elevators, trying to like circumvent the system. No, there was no getting up. I don't know what I was trying to do, but we spent, I don't know, 5 minutes trying to get onto these elevators.
Yeah, but it wasn't clear that it was closed. Like
We had to go to the front desk.
yeah. So that was a little disappointing. So we went to the food court instead, which was lovely, and they had a little bar in the lobby, and so we did that.
Mm-hmm. My sisters came around 9:30 or so, and we had a cocktail, and they gave me presents, and it was just pretty joyful. It was fun.
It was a fun time.
Mm-hmm. And we went to bed around midnight. That was day one. Isn't that an epic day one?
Yes, that is a lot of things happening on that day. The next day was Friday, January 3rd. You had plans to get up early. Did you do that after a midnight bedtime?
We never ended up setting an alarm because we all woke up very early. So we woke up at 7:30 naturally. 3 out of the 4 of us are moms. And my sister, who doesn't have a kiddo yet, she works professionally in like a normal environment where you have to be there. So we were all just up and at 'em. We went downstairs and we got Starbucks because they have a Starbucks in the building. And we all got blonde espresso because we heard that blonde espresso is better. I don't know if it's better, but it's good.
It was the drink of the trip, though.
It was the drink of the trip.
Somebody had said that if somebody her sister worked with who works at Starbucks evidently had said that blonde espresso is the way to go. So we all tried it. Different blonde espresso drinks the whole trip.
Yeah. we did something financially, which I think was a good thing to do, where every day one of us bought coffees. So we just didn't worry about it. And then when we were buying food, I bought it with the discount. And then my sister kept track of all the numbers. And at the end, we added it up and just divided it. So we didn't worry about, are you doing this? Are you doing that? It just felt a lot easier for me to put it on my credit card and then divide it in quarters.
Yeah, that's probably a good thing to decide beforehand.
It definitely felt like fake money, but we didn't spend that much.
No.
Yeah.
But we had but at least like for me, I had no idea what I was spending. It was just like
Because somebody else is paying for it. So it was
Exactly.
it's like, I don't know what's going on. I mean, obviously I was looking at the numbers on the menu, but
Yeah. But did you guys then walk to Royal Pacific?
So we walked. This day we walked to
that
Royal
morning we
Pacific. Yep. And then Becky she's still nursing her kid. So she had a pumping gear with her that she left at the check bag service.
And I had a change of clothes that I brought.
Yep. And you had a change of clothes. And then we left both of those things at check bags and we got our express passes. And then from there, we walked to Islands of Adventure. And I think that overall, I prefer the security at Universal Studios. It's just super easy. You put your bag into a little X-ray device, it goes through, you walk through, it's easy. So every time we went through security, it felt a lot more manageable. But this one in particular, it's its own security space that's really close to the entrances, which is great.
It's like the airport.
Yeah.
Kind of,
It is like the airport. And I can't tell you how many times I get stuck in Disney security. And then Katie gets stuck a bunch in Disney security because they want to check every part of that person's body.
Yeah, Disney security was the whole thing.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And Disney used to be worse. So it would be nice if they had the same system.
Yeah, it would be. So we walked to Islands of Adventure and then bought Adrian and Becky's passes. We did that there because I know that this is a thing they're going to hopefully roll out, but my annual pass for Universal, I can't get a discount unless I'm in person. So I bought their things in person. It ended up being cheaper, about, I don't know, $55 cheaper per ticket. And then after that, we went into the park and went to Green Eggs and Ham and had some tots. Mm-hmm. Do you want me to keep going? And then how do you want to do this? Okay. So the ride that I love the most is Velocicoaster. It's just the best ride ever, but it was delayed. And it was delayed a lot this trip. I think this entire day.
A lot of the rides were delayed and for a lot of different at all of the parks. And then we ended up talking to you talk to a lot of people because you're going behind the scenes for a lot of things for the wheelchair. And they kept saying it was because of the cold. That things were just wonky and things like that because of the cold and the temperatures,
Mm-hmm.
which was also reassuring. So I was like, why is everything breaking?
Yeah, it is a little unnerving when that happens.
It is, especially
But when
with
they said that things just get temperamental when it's cold, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes me feel like, okay, that's better.
Mhm.
I don't mind getting on the rides. If it's just temperamental, that's fine. Like,
So when Velocicoaster was delayed, we decided to just go up to King Kong, and the transfer was pretty easy. And Express mattered. A lot of times Express did matter. Unless they had an elevator to get you to an upper lift part, it mattered to have Express because it would get you to the front of the line. And they will sometimes wait until the very end to even get you on the elevator. So getting up to the front matters.
I would also say that it was confusing throughout the park, both still, because of rules changing about their policies, right? They'd be like, oh, why don't you have or do you have a slip, or and not really, or oh, you should go get a slip, or you know what I mean? Just not really understanding what their policies were. Like, I think we had a better understanding of what their policies were than it seemed like the park workers did sometimes.
And then you dig into it and be like, okay, but if I go do that, or is she going to qualify? Well, does she have autism? Well, no. Okay, well, probably not. I'm like, what are you talking about? Stop offering us this thing that she's not going to qualify for, and that takes weeks anyway. It's so weird.
I'm so confused because you're in a wheelchair. Isn't that all they need to
say
know?
the rides are all accessible, and what I would say is there's a lot of variety and accessibility.
Yeah,
that's very disappointing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll talk about each of them because I made notes for all of them, and some are better than others, but because it was a very busy weekend, sometimes the Express Pass didn't matter, because they were still super long lines.
Yeah, the lines were super long. I think that if we had Net Express, it would have been annoying.
Miserable.
Because there just would have been lines the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so which rides did you do then?
Okay, so sorry. We're on King Kong. It was a super easy transfer. She was able to go right here. I'm on the first one. She was able to go right up to the vehicle and then transfer on direct over. And we had a similar experience with Spider-Man. There was a transfer chair, right? And then it kind of brought you over. It like just made it easier to get on. The only ride that we weren't able to do together was Dr. Doom. So this was a super weird ride. The Express didn't matter at all. You went to an elevator and it brought you right to the front of the ride. Do you remember all this?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about it?
Sure. I mean, the thing that was hard was that it's a lift up because it's like the chair is like above where I sit. So it's like here to me, right? And so I would have had to lift from like where I sit.
From chest level.
Yeah, from like almost chest level up to chest level. And I could almost do it, but not quite. And it's funny because we rode another ride. I think, was it Velocicoaster?
Mm-hmm.
That has like this chair that like is lower, and then it has like a pump up, and then it gets you to the height of the coaster. Mm-hmm. And so, but they don't have that at Dr. Doom. So it was like they have it, like it exists within the park, but it's not at that ride, right? Yes. Again, do I need to ride Dr. Doom? I've ridden rides that are very similar to it. No, I didn't need to ride it. I don't feel disappointed. However, like you have the ability, why not just have that same thing at that ride too?
Yeah, but it seems to me like you have encountered this kind of stuff so often that you've learned to not be disappointed. But listening to it, yes. I am disappointed because you should be able to ride whatever you want.
And yes. And so that's the truth, right? That's the truth of the matter. I've learned to not be disappointed because there are so many things in life that I just don't experience or don't get to experience because of my disability. Mm-hmm. And so I've learned to temper my expectations a lot. But then Emily's, but you should be able to. And I'm like, mm-hmm. And I just don't have that expectation of I should be able to do everything. I just don't have that expectation in life. I just don't.
That makes me feel really sad.
It does. It makes me sad too. You're just so used to it, and you shouldn't have to be. That's my biggest takeaway right now.
I know.
I mean, but that's the world, right? The world isn't designed for me.
I know. I don't like
these
that.
Parks could be.
They could be.
It's so easy. That was an easy fix.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So then we walked over to Hulk, and it's a funny thing. So it did matter if you have Express or not, but then you get kind of pulled over to the side to an elevator, and we rode up, and it was not an easy transfer, I would say, but they let us choose the row. And one thing that was unique about Universal is for these bigger transfers, they were like, do you want to ride again? So they would just let us ride twice, which was awesome because it is like a big transfer and it takes some time. So we chose the front of the seat, and it was hard to get in.
Yeah. Part of the thing that makes it hard on roller coasters is really the leg divider, right? So even if you can get into the
Between the
coaster,
legs.
but like that leg divider, you have to get higher, right? Like
Mhm.
that's basic. You have to be able to get even higher above. It adds that 3 or 4 inches. So it's just more complicated. And again, things are always doable, but or you can get part of the way in and then you land there and your crotch lands on it. Do you know what I mean? That happens a lot, right? So there's lots of bruising, and it's just never a beautiful thing. It's not a lot of grace involved in the whole process.
But we laughed a lot.
We did.
Katie has such a good sense of humor, and so we were laughing a ton while trying to get you off of the impalement.
But I think that always is why it's always appreciated also when there's one that can go like around the corner, or like when there's just another spot when it's not in front of the entire line, right? Because
that is great in front of everybody.
You know, when you do it in front of 100 people, you're like,
yeah.
Well, at one point, she did do that for a different ride. She went, ta-da! And then everyone.
Because I mean, you are on display, right? And so
you are, and that's awkward. But you got to ride more than once, so that's kind of nice.
Although they were all, everybody that I was with
we were ill.
They were sick.
I don't get motion sick from roller coasters, but riding Hulk twice at the front, I had motion sickness for sure. And one thing that you said afterwards is that it would have been better to have somebody in front to help you so that you didn't fall into the pit of despair.
Right, yeah.
So maybe the front row wasn't the best choice we've ever made.
I think also having something stable to hang on to, right? On a coaster, you don't always know where to spot. If I go to hold on to the thing above me, is that thing what is gonna move and what is not gonna move that I can hold on to?
An attendant could say that too.
Right.
They could say, these 2 things are not going to move. Feel free to use them for leverage.
Or is there a bar that they can bring in those suctions, right? That is stable.
So then we loved it. Katie loved that ride.
It was one of my favorites. Yeah, for sure.
And we left and then went to the Hogwarts Express. And I think it is because we have Express. No, then this one, we did go through an exit line, but the Express still mattered. But the Express line brought us to the elevator. We took the elevator up. And then it was kind of nice because on this one, this was like the first one where you could stay in your chair. So the whole cabinet's super cool, opens up wide so that her chair can get right on. And then she is in there and they close it up again. And they asked, do you want to be locked down? Right. And you said no. And then we were on our way. That was a pretty easy time. It was cold because they're still pumping air conditioning in a lot of these places. So it is cold.
And you're freezing.
So the first thing we do, obviously, on a cold day is we went to Florian's for ice cream, like you do. And that was awesome. And then we went to Gringotts, and the Fast Pass again helped, but we did use an elevator for part of it. This one, I wrote down that it was the best ride transfer ever, and it was a super easy transfer. Do you remember? I do remember what happened, but do you? It was the one that opened up the side.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was finally like one of the times that they had a key where they unlocked part of it, and so then it was like, and so they moved the part that you'd have to otherwise like step around. And
so it's like seat to seat transfer.
So it's an even transfer. Yeah.
It seems to me that the newer rides have a better setup.
Yes.
Most of them. Sometimes, but like the Mickey and Minnie's was not easy.
Well, at Universal.
Oh, yes. Universal. Yes. But also the river ride, that's not a new ride, and that had an awesome transfer.
Okay, yeah. Just a different one.
Yeah. I wonder if it just depends on the person who's designing it, you know, if they're thinking about it or not.
It made me want to talk to somebody who's engineered rides. That's actually what it made me want. Who's thinking about this when this happens?
Who's testing it?
Yeah.
We had a lot more questions after this. We were like, who is doing all of this?
So we went after that. I said, okay, I'll go get all of the fanny packs. And, you know, I think that Katie and Adrian were like, we got to go to the restroom. And then Becky's, I'll meet Emily. And we got completely lost. And I had all the phones. So I had all the phones in the fanny packs.
I had my phone because it was my chair.
And so I could see that she went to a different restroom, like outside of Diagon Alley. But I could not find Becky anywhere. And so I was like searching around trying to find Becky. And then I got a call from Katie and Becky was outside, but she was at the point where she was like calling my brother to have my brother call me to tell me where she was.
Because that was the only number she had memorized.
It's so funny. It's so funny to get lost because we always have these cell phones, right? And we never get lost anymore. We can always reach each other. And it was a really funny thing to get lost and to lose each other. But after that, we stopped putting our things into lockers and just hung them on Katie's chair.
Which I had originally said, I was like, that's going to be easier, guys. Everything's going to stay on my chair. It's on my chair.
Katie, right. Yep.
One less step.
One less step. And we did that kind of going forward. For our lunch, we went to Minion's Cafe. It's my favorite place to go for our food because they have a salmon dish with cucumbers and edamame and purple rice. And it just feels like you're getting something healthy in the middle of the day. So we kind of took a break and had food there. And then we went to Rip Ride Rocket. Do you remember that?
That's an intense one.
I know. With all the salmon on board. Like, whoa. So
it was hard. I remember it was hard.
This was a hard ride. It was hard. We took the elevator up. The express really just didn't matter at all. And I wouldn't say that this was close to accessible. It was very difficult to get on and off of. You're in front of everybody. They did stop the belt, but it felt like a lot.
Yep.
We had to do some manual labor to get you in and out.
Yeah, but it was fun.
And we rode that twice, right?
Yes, we did ride it twice.
That's the best part. Universal kept being like, you want to ride it again? Yes. Let's go.
After all that, yes.
So then we went over to the Villain Con ride. Have you been on that before, Shannon?
I don't.
It's new. It's like a belt that you stand or sit on, and then you have this like gun that you shoot different things on screen, and then you get like points from it. I don't know. It's pretty weird. But you could stay in your chair. So it was a nice way to just kind of, after that one, it was really nice to find a spot to just stay in a chair and chill. And I won. Not that I need that, but I do. I do. I come from a family of very competitive people.
And then there was Becky and I who just didn't care.
Yeah, she is not the competitive one for sure. So then we went to Fast and the Furious.
Emily's favorite ride.
I hated this ride. Similar transfer as King Kong, you kind of just seat to seat. But man, this ride sucks. Have you been on that? It's the worst ride. I don't think I would ever go again.
I think it's the whole concept of the ride that you hate.
Yeah, there's just like girls in bikinis, tough men, just the whole thing. I'm like, why do we have this? This is unnecessary. Can we not? And then it was all 3D and movement, which is not my favorite anyway. So we're kind of like in a car, not for me. So then we took the train back to Hogsmeade, and we ended up meeting a really nice person by the elevator who was super personable, and then also shared that they have cameras in every one of those carts, so don't do anything naughty because they've seen people doing naughty things in there.
I forgot about that.
And then after that, she actually told us where it is. It's this little tiny dot at the top of your cabin where you can look up and you're like, hello. And she said, you're always being watched, so don't do naughty things.
And are you talking about Hogwarts Express has cameras?
In every one of those little rooms.
Okay.
So
it really got you thinking though about throughout the whole park. You're like,
where are you watching me?
Yeah, right.
We're always watching. Somebody's job is just to watch those cameras and yell.
Same at Disney.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I wouldn't mess around.
Right, exactly.
It's not worth it, guys. So again, Velocicoaster's closed, and we went to our Antojitos dinner reservation, and it was fine.
Yeah, I mean, it was overwhelming. It was loud.
Yeah.
It was overstimulating after a day of overstimulation, is how it felt.
We probably should have just gone to Bistro 17 and chilled out.
Yeah.
And the hotel. We
all ate too much.
Yeah, we really learned from this one too. Like we only had one drink, but it felt like
too much after everything that we'd already done.
Yeah. But then we walked back to Royal Pacific because we left those bags there. And then we're like, well, if we already have a room, let's go up to the room. So we went up to the room and got a transfer chair for Katie to use in the shower. And Katie took a full-blown shower.
I was tired and felt dirty and needed a shower.
Yeah, and used every towel, which I think is the coolest thing. And then Becky pumped, and we watched RuPaul's Drag Race. It was top notch. So I think that we all knew we needed some downtime after the park too, especially after Antojitos. So we had this massive downtime.
Yeah.
And then we walked back to our hotel and realized that Miss America and Miss Teen America were happening in Portofino. So there are all of these girls really, really
In
dressed
evening
up.
gowns, and here we are in like our park attire from the day.
Yeah, I think we blended in.
Looked just like them.
Yeah.
They probably asked you, what state are you from?
I know. Oh, I didn't bring my sash. Sorry. And we were asleep by 11 that night, and we had about 18,500 steps. I think it's because of the back and forth and all the walking.
Okay. Long day. But the
That's
next day, you were back at it and planned to go to both parks again.
So we had a slower morning, hung out in the room. We got coffee, went to Portofino, and we got a boat, which the boat is a really, really great way to get to the park. It made it feel super special. It just felt very cool.
Chill.
And we went to the stroller spot to see if they had some tools because Katie's wheelchair was like falling apart from all of the transfers and
the plane ride.
and
I
the
think,
plane.
like,
Yeah.
It'd been through some stuff. The brake had gotten loose. And so it wasn't like, so the transfers were getting harder because it was loosening up as the time was going on. And so Hazel was like, go see if they have an Allen wrench that you could tighten it up. And they didn't. It wasn't helpful. I should have just tried to find an Allen wrench at the hotel or whatever, but
They didn't have anything. So we just had like loose handles. And by the end, one of the handles just came off. It's very funny. So we decided we were going to go right to Hagrid's. It was the beginning of the day, and let's just get it out of the way. It said 138-minute wait. It was way, way longer than that because the ride kept breaking down. It ended up being closer to 3-hour wait. It was so much. And
more like 2 hours.
no, it was 3.
Was
I
it
know.
really?
Yeah, I kept looking at the time. It was 3.
Jeez.
I know.
Emily had a conference call that she had to be on. So
I forgot about that.
which is part of what made our decision. We were like, let's just get in the line because Emily had to do the conference call. We're like, it's going to be better to do the conference call in line than it is anywhere else, right? And so, wasn't there another reason? Didn't somebody else have to do something in line? Or no? Was it just the conference call?
I think it was just the conference call.
And so, and then, so it just worked out. Everybody else like touched base with home, and we just were in line.
Yeah. Well, I got ginger newts too. So I snagged some ginger newts and brought them into line. So we all had our own little ginger newt to snack on. And they say that this ride is accessible. And I really wish that I had handled it differently because no matter how you slice it, 3 hours is not accessible. And, we were still outside when my sister had to use the restroom. So she could because she's able-bodied and she can kind of sneak between people and go down the stairs. But Katie also had to.
But at 2.5 hours, I mean, I stopped drinking coffee the minute we got in line. I did. I promise you. But like at 2.5 hours, I was like, shoot, I have to go to the bathroom. I mean, I planned for it. Do you know what I mean? I looked at the time and I was like, but like at 2.5 hours, I was like, I have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And the ways to get out of line were down steps.
Until you're at the ride, right? There's no way to get out. There's no way that Katie could have reversed and gotten out. There's no way that she could have gone through one of the exit doors. Those all have steps.
It was really poorly thought out in that.
It was not accessible, and it made for a really hard situation. And, and then also there's all these ramps. So she's having to hold a lot of times instead of just like rolling down the ramps because we're stuck in a line she's holding, it just takes a lot of extra work, or it puts it on your brakes, which your brakes are getting loose at this point. And then there was one part where Katie went to kind of move to the side and she rolled through what could only be a pile,
that's right. I forgot all about this.
of snot. And so now it's all over her wheels, which means it's all over her hand.
We all freaked out. It was gross.
Awful. And, so we're now like, I'm trying to pour water onto there. I'm giving her napkins to wipe it off, but it felt really dehumanizing for you, but I was really angry about it because that should not be the way. Like it's just, no matter how you slice it, 3 hours is not accessible if you don't have the exits be accessible to. So anyway.
Or a way for people to be able to get out of line and get back into line, right? Any able-bodied person does that, right? People do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how people function in lines for 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and again, like when somebody asks me, can I wait in line? Sure, I can wait in line, but I have to be able to pee too, right? And so I think that's a misstep.
Yeah. So at one point, we're really close to the entrance. Katie leaves with Becky because that's a big old like ramp to go down. So Katie leaves with Becky to go to the restroom. And then Adrian and I are waiting, and I speak to their line manager to be like, y'all, this is not okay. What can we do about this next time? And she says that next time something like this happens, what I should do is talk to the attendant at the front and explain the situation. And they would likely have sent us through the exit. So that was a good lesson for me on how to advocate for somebody in the future, but also it really shouldn't be that way. We did also talk to somebody about this, and they sent us through the line. Anyway, that is still something that I'm trying to figure out the best way to bring it to Universal's attention, but it should be a policy change. If someone has other reasons that they can't be in a line, then and it really doesn't apply to all lines. It's just these really long waits. There should be a policy in place to allow them to go through the exit.
Yeah.
So about, I don't know, 20 minutes later, you guys came back and they had a cool transfer chair that made it very easy. Katie rode on the sidecar. I rode on the motorcycle, and it was super fun.
And then the ride broke as soon as we got off.
We got off the ride and it broke. Oh, can you imagine if it broke when we were on it?
When I was trying to negotiate for 2 rides after we waited in line for 3 hours, and she was like, I really can't let you guys ride 2 rides after it's been a 3-hour wait. And I was like,
we did try that.
I mean, you could. You technically could.
But when it broke, we were like,
broke down.
fine. But what if it did break and you were on the ride?
I mean, I think about that all the time on rides, but whatever.
Yeah.
Hasn't happened yet. Knock on wood.
Yeah. Evacuating.
Right. She'd just be sitting there. And then we definitely need to ride twice.
I mean, some of them I've looked at, I'm like, I could climb those stairs. It wouldn't be fun, but I could do it,
Yeah. Okay, so Velocicoaster's open and we're like, go, go, go. And because of this experience, I went to the attendant and was like, here's the situation. And he said, well, you guys can go through the line and then you can wait a child swap. And I went back to Katie. She's like, I really don't want to do that. I want to stick together. So I went back to the attendant. I'm like, hey, she wants to stick together and he's come with me. So he brought us through the exit line and we skipped the line entirely. And then we were right at the front and they had a cool transfer chair.
Yeah, that was the pump one. It was like, and he like levered it to get you up to the level that
because it is high.
It was because it's high.
And then we rode that twice again.
And I hated that one because it's only a lap bar. And so like when you're disabled and so I can't brace myself in the same way that other folks can necessarily with your legs or have the same posture or the same muscles exactly. And so, which granted this one, everybody else levitates too. So it is the same thing. But I don't like that feeling because it feels so out of control. I like if there's something over your shoulders that holds you in and makes you feel nice and safe. Emily thought it was great. I thought it was terrifying and thought I was going to die.
Yeah, I love that ride. But I'm also...
And then we were going to ride twice because I'm on the ride. So I had to ride twice.
But you also I didn't realize how much you use your hands for safety.
I don't know what I think my hands are going to do on a roller coaster.
I know, she's like gripping onto the seat.
But I am gripping on like it's going to hold me.
But the fastness of that ride, kind of what we started doing was saying, okay, well, 3 rides divided by 4 hours or 3.5 hours, not bad, So it felt like we came out on top.
We still won that morning. We waited in line for a really long time.
We won.
And Emily got her conference call done and things done that needed to get done. So,
yep. But at this point, we had to go back to the hotel. And so we took a break at the hotel and had a bit of a reset. We took the bus over and we decided to have a coffee. And then they have this really great stir fry place. So we had very fresh stir fries and it was nice. It was nice for everybody to take a break in the middle of the day. Because I feel like that's something that we could have done more is taken more breaks in the middle of the day. And day one felt like that's where it was pretty clear.
And we knew we were going to stay out later that night too.
Yeah.
That was the plan. And so we kind of felt good about doing a refresh.
Yeah. So we took the bus back. It was a really nice driver. We went to Universal Studios and we got on the Mummy. The express for that one does matter again. But we did end up getting pulled out early and going on the elevator. Because of that, we missed kind of the story of it, but it was fine. I love that ride.
Mhm.
Again, it had an easy transfer, just open up and get them on. Then we went on Transformers. The express for this doesn't matter because the regular line is accessible. And then we were right onto the ride, easy transfer
because
again.
it wasn't accessible.
I think I wrote that wrong.
No, I think it is. It's because it isn't accessible.
Oh yeah, it
They
isn't
would have taken
accessible.
us around anyhow.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you. And then we went to ET, took another little small break. This was a really nice ride.
Yeah, ET is cool because I got to stay in my chair. It's another one where I can just stay in my chair.
And
So
then,
there's a special vehicle just for chairs on that one.
and there's so there's not only that, but there's also a spot where you can transfer easily too. So they give you options. You can choose one or
Yeah,
the
there was
other.
2 options.
And the people who were helping, they laid out the options really well. They gave you tons of time to get on. There was no rushing. And I just think that they did a great job.
Yeah, I think the thing that was nice about the options is that because I knew we were going to be riding for so many days that I was like, anytime I could stay in my chair, I was like, yeah, let's just do that. Just
Mhm.
because I knew I was going to be doing so much lifting for so many days.
Mm-hmm.
We went over to Men in Black, another easy, there was an easy transfer, but you also got to stay in the chair for that one. And then we tried to take the Hogwarts Express back. This was kind of hard this day because there was a huge line and they kept doing these funny things where they would make us, here's where you need to go if you're in a wheelchair, but they would make us go all the way around and then come out, right? So the other people go upstairs and we go on there. I'm like, but you just made us like go through all of these tiny little twisty turny things when we could have just gone over and gotten on into the line. It wouldn't have made a difference for anybody, but it would have cut down on all of our like movement. But that's when, I mean, going on a holiday weekend on a Saturday, I think that this is what we probably should have expected, that there's going to be some level of extra inconvenience.
I think it's also, I mean, from the disability perspective, it can feel a little absurd when you're in the line with 20 strollers.
Oh, that was true.
Right?
I forgot
A
that.
stroller and a wheelchair are different things. They just are. I mean, I understand that like parents with children also have additional needs. They do, but it's different. It just is.
Yeah. And they only have one elevator. Okay.
Yeah. It feels like the thing in common there is wheels, but otherwise they are different.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, but you're constantly waiting with families. And so
Mhm.
that's a little bit frustrating.
Yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with families, but they have another way to get up those stairs.
And some pretty large strollers.
Yeah.
I mean, some pretty elaborate contraptions that you have at these places.
Yeah, we saw someone in a full on like wagon with a topper.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, those are big. Anyway, we went to Forbidden Journey as our last ride. And this was another one of those, what are you guys doing? Where they had us like go through the line and then they pulled us out and then they had us go up the elevator and then go to one random split space, give them our thing and then go back down the elevator and then give that thing to another person. It was so weird when
we should have just actually when we read we read the numbers and it said entrance to ride, we should have just hit the number
entrance to ride, but we didn't have the piece of paper, so they could have just sent us back up to 2. It was so silly. But once we were at the ride, it's kind of nice because it's its own little space. You have plenty of time to transfer. Yeah, it's not moving. It was nice.
Mhm.
You were squashed.
I was
I was a squasher. And it's a newer ride, but it was a squasher. Okay, so then we had a reservation at Toothsome. We were 30 minutes late. It didn't make a difference. They were totally fine about it. And we shared some apps and desserts. And my friends pranked me. So there's a really creepy guy there who's wearing a mask. And to me from afar, it looked like he was wearing fake skin on his face. That's not it. But I was like freaked out. And so when I saw him, I was like, all right, we got to go. We're done. We got to get out of here. And I said, we got to go. And then I was like trying to figure out if the glass was a souvenir cup. Because it is, apparently. They throw those souvenir cups out if you don't take them. So anyway, they all leave and I'm trying to figure that out. And I come out and I'm like, look, it's a souvenir cup. And as I say that creepy guy says, hello, Emily. And I proper screamed and ran.
and we all were hysterical, like we had been drinking all night or something. Like
we hadn't zero drinks, but we were
slap happy,
hysterical. And I don't get pranked a lot, but I think I have a bit of a wild imagination, so I got totally freaked out.
It was hilarious. Best thing ever.
I can send it to you, Shannon. It's ridiculous.
Yo, there's a video.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's a video.
Okay, good.
Video too.
Yeah, I told, as soon as I saw what her sister-in-law was doing, I told her sister to get the camera out.
Rude.
And you can just hear me laughing the whole time.
Yeah, cackling. Oh gosh. Okay. We took the boat back because it's such an epic way to get to the park and back again.
Oh, and this person was sharing. They had the what song was
Weezer.
playing? It was Weezer playing.
It was Weezer's their cover of Pixies' Where Is My Mind? And they like just blasted it. And so it felt really lovely and epic. It was honestly the best night ever. It was so fun.
It was good.
So we were like pumped because we were listening to this great song in a boat, and it timed perfectly. Like they started it right when we were leaving, and then the song ended right when we got there. It was magic, and it was perfect.
And then the people who are driving the boats, they ask each time also whether I want to get on or off first or last, which was kind of lovely because especially after all day of being either on display or not on display, like you have the option of either waiting or not waiting. So it was just kind of a nice thing. They were like, oh yeah, every single time you do this, you should be asked. And I was like, oh, okay. And so that was kind of nice. But again, that was just a really nice boat ride. And it was just kind of a perfect ending to the evening.
Mm-hmm. And they're so good at it. They just get you on, get you off. It's not a big deal. It's just another activity they do to get ready.
Yeah.
Then we had about 15,000 steps.
Shorter day.
Epic day though. Yeah.
All right. The next day was your last at Universal, but your sisters were flying home.
Yeah. So we were all up again at 7, had coffee again. Adrian and Becky left. Bye. We requested a late checkout. My brother told me that that's like a thing that you should always do. So I requested it. They gave it, no issues. And Katie and I just went and took the boat again because now we're obsessed. We took the boat to Universal and just did a bit of shopping and got voodoo donuts. And then grabbed the boat again. We showered, changed, packed, and got a lift to Pop.
Oh yeah, and Emily had to go look for her water bottle.
I lost my water bottle. So when I was excited about the cup and then I got pranked, I forgot my water bottle. So then we had to go back to Tucson and get the water bottle. And I lost it again. I lost it again on that trip to Pop. I have no idea where it went. So I was never meant to have that water bottle. And I accept it now. So it was a great ride because it was in a Camry. And he was a very helpful driver. I think he was concerned about his car, but he was very good at getting her chair in and getting it out really easily. He helped me set it up. And one thing we noticed kind of entering into Pop is the holiday decorations were totally up still everywhere. Like it was full blown Christmas.
At this point, it felt like I was like, isn't Christmas over? Like I kept having this moment where I was like, Christmas is over. Like
it wasn't.
I mean, as we're talking, it's 2 weeks later and the Christmas decorations are still up at Epcot and Animal Kingdom.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Epcot Festival of the Arts is taking place with Christmas decorations up.
What?
All right. Well, Christmas is not over then, evidently.
Well, and then the music. I think the music's the most annoying part.
Yes.
Yeah. Agree. That's the part where I was like, can we just tone it down on the music part? Like it's cool to see, but tone it down.
Switch it to the regular audio track.
Right. So we were able to check into our room early. It was in the 80s section. The room was fine. Tight. This didn't feel like the most accessible room, even though they said it was accessible.
When I had stayed at Disney before, I'd gone with my family, so my husband and my daughter, and I think that because we had needed the extra bed for her, and it wasn't like what Emily and I had was 2 doubles, and so I think that with what they had done to make it accessible was they had attached 2 rooms, so my daughter had like kind of her own space, and that felt like almost absurdly large, actually for Disney. It felt outrageous, but this one was just like it was very tight for a wheelchair. It was hard to actually maneuver.
And for you to get to the sink was like a bit of a joke. For her to sit in the sink, she had to just projectile into the sink.
Yeah. The vanity was like so deep that like I could get under it, right? Get right under it, but then I couldn't get to the sink because it was so deep. It was bizarre.
This is another thing where we just were laughing a lot about it.
Yeah. It was like
so I'm laying in bed like sprawled out for probably about 2 minutes, and then we're like, should we go do something?
I was like, yeah,
let's go. So we took the bus to Magic Kingdom and went on the monorail. I was thinking about it, and just like the way that it runs, if we wanted to end in the Contemporary, then we really should have gone down to Poly first. So that's what we did. We went all the way to Poly and ended up going to Trader Sam's Tiki Terrace. We were there at 2:53, but it opened at 3, so we had a great table outside, and we had a cocktail each and some dumplings. And we walked around the resort a little bit, looked at the pool. We got back on the monorail. Oh, I should probably mention, I didn't realize, and I don't know why, but you go in and out of security a lot if you do this monorail crawl. So I should not have brought multiple things that I brought with me because they just kept going off. It was like not worth it. And Katie would get pulled out and have to be like full body checked. I guess I just didn't realize there'd be so much security along the way, but hot tip.
It didn't used to be like that.
Ooh, it was a lot.
It is. The only advantage is if you're staying at those resorts, you can do the security there and then you don't have to at Magic Kingdom. But if you're doing a crawl, it's constant.
Yes, exactly. And the other part that I thought was really interesting is they'll ask you like where you're going. And then they have this little button system that they say where you're going. So then the person at the next stop knows if someone in a wheelchair needs to get off. So they have this cool little mechanism that they're using.
Emily was like, how are they doing this?
I know, I got obsessed. How does this work? Anyway, so then we went to the Grand Floridian and we were able to go right into Enchanted Rose, which was great. We were there around 4:30 and we had cocktails and nuts and olives and fries. It was all very nice. And I don't know why I wrote this, but I wrote lights went down. Gorgeous. I have no idea what that means. Oh, right.
It got later, and so
when we were in the room, it dimmed.
It got romantic with the ambiance.
Yeah. Romantic for two friends. It was really nice. And then we took the monorail to the Contemporary and we walked around the Contemporary and went to Steakhouse 71. That was our best meal. By far. Best cocktail. I love the Poly the most, the way it looks, but man, Steakhouse 71 was delicious and super fun cocktail. And the guy who was helping us was great. That was just, I think that was great.
And the food was the best.
Yeah. So we decided not to watch the fireworks this day, but instead kind of walk our way back to Magic Kingdom. And the fireworks started happening, which was super nice. I think that watching the fireworks from afar is actually better than being right there. It just, without all the crowds, it felt like a bit more magic. So we got on the bus, we went to the hotel room, we took a shower, and then went to sleep.
Yeah, I went to sleep early pretty much every night because we were just exhausted by the time.
I mean, early, but some of them were like 11:30. That feels late.
Fair.
Well, the next day may or may not have been an early day because you were headed to Animal Kingdom, which does open really early.
Yeah, so we never did rope drop. We always just let ourselves wake up, but we woke up early. So we were up at 7:30. It was definitely a slower get ready day because now at this point we're dragging. And we tried to grab a coffee, but they don't have iced coffee at Pop Century, which I thought was kind of weird. So we decided to just wait and we got the bus. One thing that's kind of funky about the bus system is that they can really only seat 2 people in wheelchairs. So there were already 2 people, they were done. So we had to wait for the next one, but it didn't take that long. And that was it, right? We went to Animal Kingdom. So our first, oh, that's funny. I just didn't put the things. Okay. I know, it was so good. So we went to the safari first and we kind of booked our way up there and they pull you out of line and you have your own loading station and she could stay in her chair. But this was a great ride.
It was a great ride.
Like top notch. It's super long. And because we were there in the morning, I think we were there at 9.
It seems like the animals were all getting fed.
They were all so
they were really active or maybe the cooler weather, but like they were all out and about.
Yeah. We saw everything. We saw hippos walking on the ground. We saw a baby elephant and the baby elephant put a little stick on her head and just was like walking around. Like it was really sweet. And I guess I didn't realize that Animal Kingdom, I should have, but that ride is great. Animal Kingdom to me ended up being like a sleeper hit because I've not spent a lot of time there. But the food was great. The rides were great. The ambiance was great. And man, seeing those animals up close was awesome. Got a coffee.
Got a coffee.
And then we went to the Navi River ride. It was a straight on. There was a transfer device that helped it. And what would have been an hour-long wait was just like nothing because we had those lightning lanes. When I started using the Safari, the lightning lane, I also started booking for Magic Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
So after we did that, we went to mobile order from Satuli Canteen.
Yeah, then we got that yummy little kids meal.
Yeah, we got the kids meals. Really great. Totally worth it. And then one thing we noticed too is that the bathrooms at Disney were overall much nicer than Universal Studios. They were being like maintained better and and they were still like a little bit themed. It just felt nicer and cleaner. After that, we went to Everest and the lightning lane absolutely mattered. I don't know how we would have done these rides without lightning lanes. We would have been in lines all freaking day. And this one, the door opens, so it's a wider train. And then
Super easy.
it was super easy and super fun. I love that ride.
It's a good ride.
Who knew? And at that point, yeah, now all of our 3 rides are at Magic Kingdom. They're all booked up. So I think it's around what, like 11-ish? Like we've done a lot already. And we decided to grab a bus to Magic Kingdom. And we waited a little longer than I thought, but it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
And we went straight to get a creme brulee croissant. And we shared it. A lot of times we were kind of sharing meals along the way so we could try more stuff. And
then it started to get cloudy.
Oh yeah, it was starting to rain too, wasn't it?
It didn't start raining yet at that point.
Right, but this was a rain day. Cold rain day. And I missed
No, it was a warm rain day.
Oh yeah, this was a warm day. I missed the virtual queue. I missed for Tiana's. I missed it in the morning and then I missed it at 1. I did not get, what's that thing called? Skipper, standby skipper. Thought, oh, I can do it. But this was a very busy day at Magic Kingdom. So I was also just trying to snag things, like checking, refreshing, snagging as soon as I could. So we went to Little Mermaid. And this was a super great ride.
Mm-hmm.
The whole back of that shell opens up and she can just ride up. It was cool.
Yeah, it was a good ride.
Yeah. And while we're waiting in line for that ride, I found Tiana's. It like popped up randomly and I snagged it. And I was so pumped. Like I think that's what I think I would miss if I had Standby Skipper, is the adrenaline of finding that ride. I did it. And so I was flying pretty high on that. Anyway, the person who was helping us was really kind.
Mm-hmm.
Her name was Cassie, and she was clear and gave really solid answers. A lot of times people will say, "Can you transfer?" And Katie's, "What do you mean?" So I think there's better questions they could be asking to kind of get to the answer that they want.
I finally at the front just started saying yes, but because they'd be like, "Can you transfer?" I'd be like, "Yeah." We'll deal with more detailed questions as I get closer to the ride and as they ask me more detailed questions, because they don't know or it's just too complicated to figure out there.
And can they transfer is the difference between someone who can get out of the wheelchair versus someone who can't, right?
Right.
So you're basically saying, yes, I can get out of my wheelchair.
Yes.
But then they would say, "Can you walk?" And she's like, "No." So then they're like, "Wait, so then maybe you can't transfer."
Right. I mean, but even at Pirates at one point, they were like, or no, it was one of them. And I was like, they were like, "Well, if you can get into it, great." And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "But as you back out."
Yeah.
Right. I was like, what then?
I just live there now.
I live here now. You know what I mean? Like, they were like, then they said something like sarcastic and they were like, "Well, we'll get the princess to come get you back out." And I was like, "Okay, great." But I mean, I know that's not actually going to happen, right?
No princes are rescuing you.
Right. And so I was like,
yeah. So we ended up going right over to Tiana's. And they did have a transfer device that was pretty simple. So they brought it over and it's like a little step down into the boat and then a step back up, which makes it easier if there's these like steps in, step out.
The steps could be a little bit wider though.
Yeah, they were for tiny booties.
I mean, for child-sized booties. And that was one of them that was right in front of everybody. That was where I took my bow.
And everyone,
Oh,
because it was right in front of everybody.
it was a lot. But the ride was so sweet.
fun.
I loved it. I really loved Splash Mountain too, but I loved Tiana's so much more. And they did such a great job of changing the narrative. And I'm really happy. There's a lot that feels is going wrong in the world, but I love the fact that some of the stories we tell our children are better stories. And that our kids are kind of seeing and hearing better stories and more accurate and kind stories. And I loved the way that they shrunk us into little creatures and then let us grow back into larger ones. Like it was just very clever and very sweet.
It was very cute. And also it's just a clever ride, right? Like the drop is in the middle of the ride and not at the end or the beginning, right? Like it's cute.
Yeah.
and it's a nice long one. So once you're in,
Right. Yeah. It didn't feel like I just jumped right back out. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I know I mentioned it, but like Disney never asked, do you want to ride this again? It was always like one and done, babies.
And
especially since it's busy.
Yes, exactly.
And you're moving on.
Mm-hmm. So we had a Seven Dwarves, but the ride shut down. And so we got an anytime pass, but it just never opened up for the rest of the night. We ended up going to the Blue People and their blue umbrellas, but they said that it should automatically be refunded. And the next day we confirmed that it had been refunded. So the parade or something was about to happen where they were starting to block stuff off. And so we ended up going to the egg roll cart and sharing that. And then we went to Aloha Isle and shared a serenade. And then we went to Pirates. And this was a ride that we had talked about before, not knowing if it was accessible. So I didn't want to use a lightning lane for it. But it had only a 15-minute wait, which ended up being way longer because everybody saw that 15 minutes and just rushed. But we talked to the attendant and we're like, is this accessible? Because we can wait, but it would be really yucky to like wait for an hour and then get there and not be able to transfer. And here's what I want you to do. Say you know this person, and then say that you can go to the front. And then, if you can ride it, great, ride it. And if you can't, then just come back. And so that's what we did. And you did ride it, but it was a harder transfer. It felt like getting into a bathtub.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was harder to get out, right? It was fine getting in.
Yeah.
Getting out.
But the row 6 where we were going intentionally has more room to get in and more room to get out. So that was kind of nice. Mm-hmm. We went to the laugh floor. Oh, wait. No, yeah. We went to the laugh floor. That was kind of silly. And it was raining when we got out. So we did a little bit of shopping. We asked about the Seven Dwarfs thing. And then we went to Space Mountain. This was a great ride. The lightning lane matters, but you're pulled out right at the end. And then there's a lot of like ramps. This is when I started thinking, how in the world would Katie do this without me? We were rushing up ramps a lot.
Yeah, there were a lot of ramps.
So like you would need an assist.
At that point, my arms were tired too, right?
Yeah.
So we're already on day 4 of parks or day 3 of parks.
6,
4,
no,
right.
5.
I mean, we'd already been right. Yeah. So we'd done 4 days of Universal. So we were tired. I mean, my arms were tired at this point.
But also it was a lot of ramps and some of the ramps have carpet. I don't know. It just makes it's harder. But the ride was pretty easy getting in and out of. And it was, I mean, I know I rode it last time. I was like, I can't do it again. But I was prepared for my back to hurt and it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good ride.
It was definitely, but not, it was like sprinkling at this point. So we went to the Haunted Mansion. We got pulled out of the ride early. We're kind of waiting at a different location to get on. It took a while because they had to wait for an accessible cart. Ride was fun, easy. And the transfer was like a seat to seat. So it's pretty easy on that too. But when we got out, it was like full blown pouring rain. And so we tried to hide under the Memento Mori space. And then we were like, let's just go. Like we got
why? Soaked. I don't know.
What did I try to put over your head? It was it was my little tiny backpack. I was like this, trying to put it over her head.
I don't know why we decided that we had to move.
I don't know either. But we did it.
I think we had to get over to Tron, right?
That's it. We had to get to Tron. And, at this point, we had already decided that we also wanted to go to Epcot tonight.
Oh, that's right.
Because we wanted to get a drink and her friend was in town. And so we're like, let's just get to Epcot too. But we had to go to Tron. And so we just decided to book it and got absolutely soaked and rode Tron. That's an accessible seat. So you don't get into that main space. You're at the very back on the little bench. And it's again, they open up the door. You can get on, you get off at a different location. It's seat to seat easy. And after that, we started booking it because we wanted to get out of there before fireworks started. And it was already, I could not believe that people were already starting to just wait at 7. I could not
Yeah, it was
believe
hard
it.
to get on Main Street.
Yeah. It was hard to get out even then, but we did. And we took the monorail to Epcot. It was super fun.
Made it to our 3rd park.
Yeah. We did 3 parks one day. Pretty
3
excited.
park day. So was it still raining at this point, or had it stopped?
It stopped. By the time we got to the Tron, it was done. So it was like a quick downpour when you saw it. The radar, it was like this long sheet that was just like going over the state, but then it was over. So it was fun. But because it was getting cold at this point, when you're cold and wet, it's harder.
That cold front came in because it was cold the next day.
That's right. It was freezing the next day. That's when it dipped into the 30s that night.
That is cool.
So we got out of the park around 7. We took the monorail, to Epcot. And then we went to the UK to have some fish and chips and a beer and met with their friends, Judy, John, and Micah. And that was super fun. It was really fun to see somebody from our little town there. And they wanted to go to France afterwards and get a cocktail.
Yeah, they wanted
martini.
They wanted to do the ice cream martini or whatever that was.
Right. And we wanted to get the macaron ice cream to share as well. And so
it couldn't have been that cold. I mean, I don't know.
We kept eating ice cream. Who were we talking?
It wasn't uncomfortable there.
But then we ended up watching the fireworks, and it was super fun. Oh, it was a little
corny.
I don't love those fireworks. They're a little bit cheesy for us. But it was fun because we were kind of making fun of them.
We enjoyed ourselves.
Storyline is so cheesy. Like, we don't have to make everything meaningful. It can just be beautiful and fun sometimes. I'm going to get a lot of hate mail over this.
Yeah, right.
Sorry. So then we were on the Skyliner. This is the reason I wanted to go to Epcot, is I wanted to take the Skyliner back. And because we wanted to see the friends, but it was fun to take the Skyliner back and then be back in bed by 11. And that was a 25,000 step day.
Yes. Another long day.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting your steps in on this trip. Okay. And if I'm not mistaken, the next day was your last park day, Tuesday, January 7th.
Correct.
Yep.
So again, we were back up at 7:30. It was very cold today. It was 38 degrees when we woke up. And we were slow moving. So we were on the Skyliner at 9:15.
But Emily's sister had knitted her a nice little like hat. And so Emily actually had this.
It was like a hood.
Worn
the balaclava.
Yeah. Like knitted hood that she had. And I was like, shoot, I don't have a hat. My head is freezing.
It was really cold.
And how about the Skyliner? It was that easy in a wheelchair?
It was, yeah. I mean, again, the hardest part is the wait time, honestly, because there was just so many wheelchairs and so many strollers. And so again, I'm waiting for strollers to get on also.
Yeah, the stroller one was this one was a bit different.
Morning was fine.
This one was strollers that were tagged as wheelchairs.
Right. Yes, that was
so
different.
those people, usually kiddos who had some sort of neurodiversity that were using the. So that was functioning as a wheelchair.
This was all.
Yeah. It's a wheelchair for a kid usually.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yep.
But it was because both leaving Epcot and then going into the parks next day were pretty long waits for. So at first we were like, yeah, we only have 10 people in front of us, but that's a long wait when you're using a wheelchair waiting for the accessible pods to come in.
Mm-hmm.
I think that morning when we got to the Skyliner, it was down for some reason. And then it started. Again, I think cold.
Yeah, it was cold.
It was very cold.
And once you're in the cabin in the cold air, I assume the vents or whatever were more closed on this day.
But there's no heater in them, right? So
no.
Okay. But 38 degrees is cold.
But the sun was out.
Yeah.
Sun was out, so the sun was on us. And so, I mean, we had sweaters and jackets and things. And so we were fine. Yeah. I had gloves.
That's true. We were hoping that People would stay home because it's cold. They did not. They were ready to go. I can't believe
the crowd was smaller that day, though, wasn't it?
it was smaller. It was progressively smaller from Universal onwards, right? They were smaller. And probably gone are the days where you just get on all the rides without a wait.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keep
Yeah. And this was a holiday
you'd be
weekend.
surprised.
So I
Yeah.
assume most people left by Sunday to get back
Yeah.
to like school and work and stuff.
Right. And this is Monday. This is Tuesday now. So it was a little lower. So the first thing we had was Muppets. I did Muppets to get us on the same reservation and also beginning the morning so I could just start making reservations for other rides. I ended up not making any lightning lanes for Epcot. We only had the single lightning lane for Guardians of the Galaxy, but we ended up not riding any other rides at Epcot. Just a heads up. So like I was making reservations at Hollywood for the evening most of the time. So we did that. You didn't seem particularly impressed.
I think I was still waking up.
It's quite silly. I hate how long it takes to wait. I feel like every time I go to Muppets, I'm there at the very beginning. So then I'm having to watch that whole reel. I wish I could just time it to get in when everyone goes into the theater. But alas, I never time that well. And when we used that one, I was able to make a lightning lane for Rock and Roller Coaster for the evening. After that, we went to Katsuka's Coffee and to get a coffee, and then Ronto Roasters to get the wrap. And that was delicious. And we ate those and it was nice and warm, except for the coffee. Sorry about that, Katie. And then we did a little
delicious. It was just not a great morning for cold coffee.
And then we went to Galaxy's Edge to do some shopping because you wanted to get something for your kiddos. And then we took a bathroom break, and it was starting to warm up at this point. So we walked.
We got a cocktail.
No, we got a cocktail at Epcot.
Never mind.
We went to Tower of Terror and used a lightning lane. And at that point, I booked Mickey and Minnie's for the evening as well. The ramp to this ride is a little rough. It goes on for a really long time. And so it was another pretty heavy, just getting into the space. But the transfer was very easy. You're able to pull up your wheelchair, and then they had it when we got off. And for this one, because our, getting off of the ride, it took us longer. We weren't able to go to the photo station and snag our photo. So we ended up having to go into the shop and then ask them to find it. And then we snagged the photo. But that sometimes happened just because of how long rides would take us to get off. By the time we do, they're not there anymore.
That's it. Something I hadn't thought of. I'm glad that they allow you to go then get it back.
Katie would not have been able to do that though without someone who is my height, because where you look at the photo is a flat surface and they don't have a way for you to see it otherwise. So I had to be up top and then be like, yes, that's it. And then grab it, because the other way to grab it is further away for Katie too. So there were a bunch of things that were really inaccessible about that moment. It would have been a lot easier had someone been at the photo place and been able to go through the photos and she could see it.
And then there was also a couple of other things about the photos. Oftentimes, because we're getting on and off at different spots, right? So then we're not always getting off at the same spot to be able to see our photos.
Right.
To be able to snag them at that time, right? And so they were like, oh, just go to I think it was at Universal. They were like, just go to the photo building or whatever. And then by the time we got there, it was closed. And so we were like,
there are a bunch of photos that we weren't able to get because of that.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
And I know I have the little wrist thing that goes on. I thought that those were transferable to people. So I brought the one that I preferred, and that even in the system, I wasn't able to transfer it so that I could use it or have Katie use it. There's just, once it's tied to a person, you can't untie it, which is really annoying. Surely.
It is, but it's never been transferable, unfortunately.
Yeah. So I didn't realize that. I think that probably would have saved us all of that had I just brought all 4 of them, because I have 4 for my family. Okay. So then at this point, we went to Epcot and we took the Skyliner. It was super short wait because it's middle of the day. And we didn't have any of the lightning lanes. So we started in France, and then started going to Morocco. And this is where we had the cocktail.
Mhm.
It was delicious.
It was good.
It was the Moroccan mule. And we kind of walked into all of the area and looked at the tile work and went to Japan and bought some gifts.
Shopped a bunch.
Yeah, we did a little bit of shopping here. And then we walked through the US because we've been there, done that. We live there. No need to check it out. And went to Italy. Same. See you later. And then we got the bread pudding in Germany, which was delicious.
Mm-hmm.
And we shared it. We were on time for our Guardians of the Galaxy ride. We got September. That was the song that was on. A song changes. And again, there were a lot of ramps, but it was a really smooth ride. And someone one of the attendants told me that if I get sick, the key to it is pick a space and watch it. So I watched that big creature. And even when I was turning, was just like turning my head like I was a dancer. And I did not get sick this time. It was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that ride?
Mhm.
What did you think of it?
I liked it. But I like all the ones that make you sick.
Yeah.
That's quite a statement. I like all the rides that make you sick.
That's a good tattoo. So that was another place where we didn't have an audience getting off, which was quite nice. After that, we went to Mexico to La Cava del Tequila for drinks and the chips. And it was quite cold. It was 51, but it felt like 48. That was the weather. And we waited for a table because that's another spot that like, okay, we could do a high top, but that sounds terrible for Katie and me. So we kind of had to wait. So we got our table. But once we did, it was really comfortable in there. And the drinks and food was delicious. I would say unequivocally that Disney has better food than Universal. Like by a lot. Even if I were to take like the best things from Universal and compare them, Disney is better.
And I would say the accommodations at Universal were far better than the accommodations at Disney. That's our takeaways.
Hot takeaways. Okay, so I know we're giving these you in the middle of the thing. So Epcot was really clearing out. And at one point we looked around and it was completely empty. It was wild. I've never seen a park like that.
There was like a whole section. I was like, I can move. I can put my arms out and I can just let my chair go. It was glorious.
Yeah, if there was like a ramp that went down, like Katie, I would be like, go without me. And she just down
so
into the
great.
front. It was awesome. So we took the Skyliner and we were back at Hollywood Studios at 6:00 for Minnie and Minnie's. Minnie and Minnie's, sorry, Minnie, what did I say?
Minnie and Minnie's.
Mickey and Minnie's was fine, but they pull you into another area and then they give you this funny little seat that's really squashy. And it's a hard transfer. It's hard getting
It's bizarre that it's hard. But it was hard.
All they would need to do is have a door like that would just open up a little bit and you can get in. We saw so many cool accommodations on this trip. And that one was really hard.
I was also tired. I mean, right. So yes, it was hard, but I was also just physically exhausted at this point.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell like whether it was actually like the ride or me at that point.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And it's cute, but again, we were kind of like, it wasn't that busy. We were thinking, man, that was a hard transfer. We should ride this twice, but they didn't offer because it's Disney. After that, we went to Rock and Roller Coaster, and that was super fun. They load you into a different area, so you're loading where people are getting out, so you don't have an audience. But then it's really funny because people see you come in and you're like not an empty train, and they're like, who do I?
Yeah,
so there's a little bit of confusion, but we just kind of look ahead.
Don't make eye contact.
Yeah, exactly. And that was an easy transfer too, because the door opened and there was a handrail to have, it kind of came up to allow her to hold on to and pull from. That made that very easy. And again, that's not a newer ride than Mickey and Minnie's, but it wasn't, had more accommodation that was integrated into that. So after that, we went to Slinky Dog Ride. Do you want to talk about that? I remember all of it.
Go for it. I'm like, I don't. I mean, I remember it.
Do you?
Yeah, I mean, it opened.
Yeah.
That one opened also.
Yeah.
And it was an easy transfer.
Mm-hmm.
And we were at the back, which was great.
Super great. It was really fun to ride the back.
That one was really fun also because it was dark. And so like you were looking up at the moon that night as you were, and then like the back was great because then as it felt very much like a Slinky Dog, in my opinion. That was my first time riding that ride. But then there was this moment that Emily was like, look at the moon. And we're like, looked up. Oh, there's
Because we
the
were
moon.
just like facing the sky. It
Mhm.
was so lovely. And
That
the
was
moon was
beautiful.
right there. That was a fun one. I think that ride at night is better. It's just really sweet to kind of see the sky and the moon. And I don't know, it feels more
Eh,
magical because you're.
Galaxy's Edge as you round one of those corners.
Yes.
Mhm.
And you can kind of see like little
Wait.
peeks of that area. Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah. While we were waiting in line for Slinky, I ordered Woody's in line. And by the time we got out, it was ready, which was great. I had at one point booked Millennium Falcon, and I ended up dropping that because I don't know what I was thinking, but we wouldn't have had enough time to eat Millennium Falcon and Ride of Resistance and get to Oga's in time. But in an hour.
Yeah, that's too much.
I was feeling a little hopeful that day, so I dropped it so someone else could snag it and hopefully get that like rise of adrenaline of finding it at the last minute. And so instead, I got a kids meal at Woody's. I think that's like a lot of food for a kids meal, and it was nice because it came with a little soup.
Yeah, and it was chilly again at that point, obviously.
So cold. Because at this point, I think it's probably down in the 40s. And we went to Rise of Resistance.
It's a good ride.
I think it's better for somebody who's really into Star Wars, because it's experiential. And I think
Yeah, and because they're so much into the part also,
yeah.
even the people who are running the ride, that you're like, okay.
And
right.
this is why I never went and stayed at the Star Cruiser Hotel when it was open, because I'm like, I'm not cosplaying for days when I'm not really a Star Wars fan. It feels
Yeah.
like you really have to be into it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Some folks I love seeing how excited people are about it, but it doesn't happen to be my thing.
Yeah, that was the part, like when we got off the ride, or no, when we left Oga's, there was these guys that were like,
yeah, they were so
dressed
cute.
up and they had their lightsabers, and I'm telling you, because the park was empty virtually at that point, and they were like in front of the rides, like taking pictures, and they had their lightsabers, and they were in it, and they were just so.
It was like a whole photo session.
They were.
Mhm. It is fun to see the big fans in Galaxy's Edge. I'm happy for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
They had lived that for that moment, and they were having a really great time.
Yeah, they timed it perfectly. So yeah, and I think the best part of that ride for me was that drop. It's super fun, but I wish there were more like ride to it, because it's not enough for me as someone who's not a mega fan. But the transfer was easy. There wasn't a ton of communication, probably just due to the acting. So that felt a little funny of being like,
I just kept walking. I was like, I hope it works in the end. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, because we didn't know if the ride was going to be accessible. We didn't know where her chair should go. Like, we didn't know any of the stuff. But
I mean, how does that work? There's a lot of pre-shows. And so I assume you get to stay in your wheelchair all the way until you board the ride vehicle?
Right. So we were just in it blind. We just kept rolling it.
And it was fine. And like at one point it felt like this woman was like, I'll have your wheelchair when you get off. Like they were giving us the information, but it was in this like sneaky way to not break the experience for other people. That was kind of funny. But there were not very many people on that ride at this point. I know I had a big line, but because we bought the single rider, and also they just weren't loading up the vehicle. It was kind of wild. You know how there's a point where you see like multiple vehicles? We were the only one that had people in it. Everything else.
You had a single pass lighting lane.
Yeah.
Okay. You said single rider, and I'm just because sometimes they do a single rider on that attraction now.
They did do a single rider on that. I think that's why I started getting funk in my head. But they weren't loading up their vehicles. It's kind of weird.
Okay.
So Katie did some shopping again, and I checked into Oga's because I wanted to make sure we had a table. They had already seen that we needed accessibility, so we were already tagged to have a table, which I thought was pretty good, that we didn't have to kind of go through that extra step. I think this was our first dinner reservation or any reservation, so maybe that's like a normal thing at Disney, but it was our first time experiencing it on this because we had said, yes, we have a wheelchair.
I think at Oga's, it's especially important, though.
Absolutely.
Because of the high tops and the way things work there.
Right. Ours, because she's in a wheelchair, what was kind of funny, though, is that you're in like the front of the table. So her wheelchair's kind of out, and then I'm on like a stump.
Stool. Yeah.
And
that was uncomfortable.
Yeah, it would have been nice to sit back after this day to be like, oh. But we did fine. And there were 2 other parties that ended up like switching over while we were there as well. And it was fun. We got 2 drinks. This was our big drinking day. Because now we're like, what, 4 drinks in? That's wild. We weren't drunk, I swear, because it had been like spaced out over 12 hours. But I ended up getting this weird Jello thing that Katie liked. I thought was disgusting.
She likes things you don't.
I know. She likes things I don't.
It's true.
And
It was fun. It had boba and it had Pop Rocks. That's fun.
it was so weird. It was like a chewable
It's a whole experience.
Jello shot.
It was a whole experience. Had a lot of things going on.
Katie thought it was a fun experience.
It was. It was fun. I definitely don't forget it.
Right?
Like it's still at the front of my mind.
I didn't order it. I was like, that's a lot of weird flavors.
And I ordered it. Oh gosh. And we got one of the drinks was a non-alcoholic drink as well. So after that, we left. We saw those cute people taking photographs and being really into it. And the park was empty. So that was quite nice to walk through. And the fireworks, the Mickey show was happening in our peripheral. So when we're getting on the Skyliner, it's right as that's letting out. So the line wasn't too big at that point yet because we had timed it pretty well. And we tried to go to that photo place. We got there at 9:59 and heard it go click. So we didn't get a few of the ride photos from that day. And oh, I'm sorry, there were a lot of people in the accessible line, even at this point, even though they hadn't let out yet. So we arrived at 10:15 and it took us about 45 minutes to get through that line. It was a while.
At the Skyliner?
Mm-hmm.
That's a long time.
I know. It was a long one for sure. And here's a thing we learned. I forget about this. So at one of our trips, like I realized that there was someone behind us who had a kiddo in one of the strollers, like the wheelchair tag strollers.
Mm-hmm.
And they would have easily fit with us, right? We're only 2 people, they would have easily fit. And we got on and I was like, can they ride with us? Because it had been such a long ride already. And the guy's, oh no, if you're not part of the party, they can't ride. So then when this happened again and there was a long ride, and there were these 2 people behind us, and it was an older woman who
with a cane
who definitely she was a bit more hunched back and it looked hard to be walking, right? And so I devised a plan to say that we were together.
Mm-hmm.
And I got us on the same Skyliner. And it was really sweet.
We made friends.
Yeah, it was sweet to talk with them and learn about them. They're annual pass holders and they go all the time, and it's her and her mom, and they were just very sweet to talk to.
And we wish we'd done that with the other family too, because I mean, when you're standing there in the cold and it's dark and you know that it's another family with a child with disability, like it's hard.
I wonder why they have that rule though.
I don't know.
I mean,
it seemed unintuitive. If the families want to do it, it seems like a silly rule.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. If you opt in,
fit, right? They totally fit with both of those families would have fit with us because we're only 2 people. Anyway, we were back to Pop and then in bed by 11:15, and that was 22,000 steps.
The next day was your departure day, but you had plans to maybe go to Disney Springs?
We did not. I don't know what I was thinking with timing. And I was like, where's our luggage going to go? Because one thing I didn't think about is I have Katie's luggage, my luggage, and then like bags of stuff we bought, right? So it's like a lot to bring around. And I was thinking, man, going into Disney Springs with all that luggage sounds awful. And what if we get to the buses and then there's multiple people in wheelchairs who are waiting, and then it ends up taking a lot longer there or back? I'm like, it doesn't make sense. So I requested a late checkout, which they granted. And then we went to Art of Animation for breakfast. And it was nice. I do think it's nicer than Pop.
Yeah, they have a little avocado bowl or whatever.
Oh yeah, that was delicious. And then we also got coffee from their coffee bar, which was nice coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a little bit of extra shopping. And then we packed up and we left around 12, right? Something like that. So I ordered a Lyft, came, was perfect, got in, got out. At this point, I'm feeling like I am really good at this, just in time to not have to do it again for a while, which is not cool because I feel like you learn a new skill, you should use it. So we have to book another trip, Katie.
Okay.
And we ended up checking the luggage at the front of the airport, which I've always seen and not known what it's for. Man, is that convenient. It's so great. You just give them your luggage and then they take it away. So I will be doing that again. That was sweet.
Curbside.
Curbside. Brilliant. Who knew? And we got for security and record speed
It's quick.
because she gets pulled out of the regular line. So I'm with her. And yeah, we were through really quickly, which I was not expecting in Orlando because I know it can get super busy.
Mhm.
And Katie talked to the gate agent who moved us a little bit closer to the front, which does make a big difference, not have to get all the way through the plane. We weren't able to do that on the way down because it was so busy, but it was less busy on this one. The flight was on time, it was easy. And with, we were the last people to get off of that plane as well, since that's typically how it works, first on, last off. And Daniel, her husband, was there to picked us up, and we were in our homes by 6 p.m.
I started to get sick at the end of the trip.
Yep.
By that day, I was like starting to cough. So I got home and I COVID tested. I was afraid that I'd gotten COVID. So I was starting to, at that point, by the time I got home, I was feeling really sick. It wasn't COVID. Just picked up some sort of bug or something. And then now I've passed it along to Emily, it seems.
And Becky did get COVID on the trip. So we all...
But it wasn't COVID because I tested even after I heard that Becky had gotten it. I was like, well, it must be COVID then. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
I mean,
that Becky would have it and then I don't have it and I'm sick. And it wasn't. So
'tis the season.
Right?
'Tis the season.
'Tis the season.
Things going around.
It was a super fun trip. Would totally do again. I keep thinking about it. I actually had a dream about it last night where the back of your wheelchair started coming off again. And I was trying to figure out how to get her somewhere.
Clearly, I didn't think about it last night since I didn't even remember.
You remember you had this?
So comparing Universal and Disney World in terms of accessibility, it feels, based on what I heard you say, Universal is more inconsistent. Would you say that?
Yeah, I think I would.
Yeah, I would say that too. But I would say that the accessibility that they have is better. Like having that cool lift up.
Yeah, when it
having a chair that rises
great.
up and goes down. Yeah, when it's there, it's great. And a little bit more thoughtfully designed, and it adds less time than it does at Disney. Sometimes the accessibility at Disney adds a lot of time.
Okay, that is interesting to
And also,
know.
I think that sometimes the accessibility at Disney feels a little juvenile.
Like it's
right?
for kids, yeah.
Like it's intended for children, not necessarily for adults. Whereas, because I remember a lot of times when I went, because several years ago we went with my daughter, they have a lot that like you can stand your chair for some of the younger rides, which we just didn't do those rides this time.
It's fair.
Yeah. Okay. Thoughts on staying at Aventura?
Loved it.
Loved it. Yeah, the room was nice and wide.
Huge room, tons of space.
Yeah, it was a little white. Like they maybe need some artwork or just like a color wall or something. It was a little white, but they have floor to ceiling windows. They're beautiful. And it really is not that expensive. And you have a lot of options on how you get to the park.
But a little sterile.
But the food was pretty good there. And nice to have a coffee shop right in the middle of the building.
Thoughts on Pop Century?
I don't think I would stay there for an adult trip again. Well, okay, we talked about this a lot. We didn't spend that much time at the resort, and it was really affordable. And being on the Skyliner is awesome. It is super cool. If money were something I weren't as concerned about when I was booking, I think I would go for Caribbean. Because then you're right in the hub. Maybe it's a little bit older crowd, or maybe it's just, but I don't know. It was fine. The room wasn't super accessible. I don't know.
Yeah. The accessibility left something to be desired.
But it's cute. The theming's cute. It's nice that we had the option to go to Art of Animation. The Skyliner is just next level. That's the part that is the best.
What about overall thoughts about traveling this time of year?
I think it was fun. It didn't feel like especially traveling, it didn't feel like it was like overly busy or chaotic. I worried about the airport a little bit, but it was okay. And even the crowds, I mean, again, because we were already had the fast passes and the lightning lanes and things, it was fine. And also because we weren't like, we have to do this.
Yeah, I think we were really flexible with it too. And we did as much as we could to get to the front of all the lines. We didn't swim at all. So if you want to go swimming, then you can't do that in January. It's so cold.
Yeah, it would have been it would have been nicer if it had been a little bit warmer.
Yeah. And I think that the way we timed it with Universal on the weekend and then Disney on the weekdays after benefited us. It wasn't too hard or too full.
But we got tons of sun. Yeah, which was great.
Anything about the trip you want to share before we wrap it up?
Anything that what?
We want to
Any?
share.
You good?
That's it.
I think,
Okay.
well, I would say, I think that we travel really well together. We laughed a ton
We had a lot.
and had just a brilliant time. At one point, she was like, we haven't gotten in any fights. I'm like, no, ma'am, we haven't. We didn't fight. We just didn't disagree. We laughed. We were both like, when weird, funny things happened, like our first reaction was laughter. And I think that as you get older, finding people you can travel with is really important. And I think that I would 100% go on another trip and go to other parks together because now we're really good at it.
Now you've learned a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to share. It's been very educational, and I'm glad you had a good time.
Thanks.
Thank you, Shannon.
I hope you enjoyed my conversations with them and maybe learned some things along the way. We did keep chatting in the after chat on Patreon, which is available in both audio and video form. So if you're a patron, look for it there. I think that'll wrap up this episode of WDW Prep to Go. For more information, please check the show notes in your podcast app or go to the website wdwprepschool.com. Click on podcast at the top, scroll down to episode 445. And until next time, I will see you on the site.
Marketing is hard. But I'll tell you a little secret. It doesn't have to be. Let me point something out. You're listening to a podcast right now, and it's great. You love the host. You seek it out and download it. You listen to it while driving, working out, cooking, even going to the bathroom. Podcasts are a pretty close companion. And this is a podcast ad. Did I get your attention? You can reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Libsyn Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a pre-produced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience and their favorite podcasts with Libsyn Ads. Go to libsynads.com, that's LIBSYN, ads.com today.